here. Thank you guys for coming on. All right. Hola, mi nombre es Kofi. ¿Cómo está? Bonjour, je m'appelle Kofi. Ça va? Ni hao, namaste. Osaya, Ohio. I see you. Asaya Anakituya. Manut, Abarigani. Jambo Bimini Kofi, Nina Franco Kutana Nuewe. Shalom Bakwartav. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom in two different ways because in our calendar it's actually still dealing with Shabbat and also Shabbat Shalom due to the fact that we are still technically dealing in Passover. And now we're getting ready to go through our Feast of Unleavened Bread for the next several days. And we're excited about that. We're thankful and grateful for you guys for being on. We appreciate you so very much. Thank you for being on with us again. Happy Passover to you again. Pasacheh. We are excited and grateful and thankful for what we're doing, moving ahead, moving forward. And thanks for spending a little bit of time with us on this rising. So thank you again. We're going to start our new series today, one I've been talking about for years and finally get a chance to do. Feel like I'm led to finally have the opportunity and to teach on this. And so we're glad and we're excited. Before we get into today, let's go ahead and before we get into this today, let's go ahead and take time out to say shalom, hello to everybody, whether you're joining us on the podcast, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We appreciate you so very much. And once again, we give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we're thankful and grateful for all the stuff that she does in the diaspora and those that support that business. So she can make sure the diaspora is taken care of, as well as those that help support things like Changing Lives initiatives so that others might be fed, clothed, etc. And that's nonprofit as well. That part of it is nonprofit. So we're thankful and grateful. Once again, to everybody, to the moderators, ministerial staff, SOC, Lottie, everybody, the ministers in training. If it's your first time, one time, a minute, etc., we thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate your time. We know that you could use it to do anything else, to go anywhere else, to listen to anything else, but the fact that you decided that you would stop by here, even if just momentarily, we take great delight in that, and we're thankful and grateful. This is a somewhat, we try to be as open as an open forum as possible. However, we ask for respect and respect to be given on both ends. So we will do our best to respect you. We ask that you respect the platform. And if not, we do have moderators in different platforms to ensure that everything can continue to run smoothly so we can get the point across. But we thank you guys again, and we appreciate you so very much. And we're honored to be here with you one more again. That being said, thank you again. Let's go ahead and say hello, shalom to everybody. Bakotav again. Bakotav, Barak Allah, Sham Yahava, Anak Kofi, head of the Servants of Christ, Mashallah. Thank you, everybody, for being on. We appreciate you so very much. So let's go ahead and once again, happy Passover. Thank you to those who did Passover with us last night. Got a couple pictures from some people who did it for the first time. So we're excited that everybody was able to come together and be able to go through this great time together. Let's go ahead and say hello and get right into today. So how you doing? Hello, how you doing, Sister Denise? How you doing, Sister Beverly? Sister Denise, Minister Shantae, Javon, Stephen, Mike Bell, Michelle Bell. Yes, sir. You just watching? Okay, if you want to sit, you can sit. It's up to you. You don't have to stand the whole time. Sister Betty, Sister Knight, is Israel. If I miss your name, charge it to my head and not to my heart, by the way. We appreciate you being on. How are you doing? Let's see, Big Brother Thomas, Insomniac, Brother Keith, Mies, Sister Nadine, everybody who's on here. Brother Vincent, Nay, is it J? I don't know how to say JLIRPA5. How you doing, Sister Barbara? Truth is Life, Brother Alton, Sister Joy, everybody who's on. I only caught the end yet. Well, thank you for coming on, Him the Poet. Appreciate you coming on. She Travels, Robin. I think I may be missing a few people. Forgive me once again. How you doing, Sister Sharice, Cream, Yellow Girl, Everybody who's on, we appreciate you. Spike Me Too, Sister Allstrue, Sage, everybody who's on, we appreciate you. One more again, Eugene from the D, how you doing? We appreciate you so very much. Sister Monica's on. Everybody, Lottie Dottie, everybody across all the platforms. Once again, we appreciate you, whether you're on the podcast, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. We appreciate you so very much. All righty. So, and Shabbat Shalom again, Bakur Tav, Grand Rising to everybody. Today we're going to start a new series called Animalistic Behavior. Animalistic behavior, because there are quite a few things that we can learn from animals. I do not believe that we are animals. So those who would try to say evolution or we're just another animal, we're mammals, we're this, we're that, I can go through that context, and we'll go through some of that context as we continue to go through this. But as always, we believe in contextual facts. So contextual facts mean that whatever, we don't just give facts without context. We don't just give context without facts. So today will be like a foundational or, foundational message, something to help us to be able to comprehend where we're going, what we're talking about. And how you doing, Sister Elion? How you doing, Sister Deja? What I would like to do also, though, at this point is to use some things, if y'all don't mind. I would like to be able to use something that might not seem like it's animalistic, but I would like to be able to use it because it's going to set a great context for where we're going. So although we are talking about animalistic behavior, I'd like to talk about something that we don't think about as being animalistic, but it's something being used to cause you to stop thinking about being human and thinking more like an animal, right? How you doing, user 177? Praise Yahweh, praise Yahweh, amen. So what I would like to do, and how you doing, Mimi, Sister Mimi? So what I would like to do, what I'd like to talk about today, once again, animalistic behavior. And in animalistic behavior, and by the way, also to classes, people have been asking questions about classes. We do have the link on the YouTube videos from now on. So if you'd like to be able to get that link, if you didn't receive an email about it, you can go ahead and let us know in advance, or let us know now. We'll make sure we get you that link so you can fill it out. We're going to start putting together all of those things so we can start the classes as of next week, April 10th. We have the times and everything on the link and on the form that's to be filled out. So you can go ahead and use that to be able to make sure that you're on track. How you doing, Jay and Tink? How you doing, Sister Marion? Everybody who's on with us. Lady, Ladie? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but thanks for being on. We appreciate y'all so very much. So animalistic behavior, what I'm led to talk about today and to start off with is something that we're very familiar with, something that somebody would say they don't even seem to go together, animals and what we're going to talk about, but two movie franchises. One movie franchise we know is Terminator 1, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Terminator 3, I think was the one with when Arnold comes back and they couldn't change stuff and he gets him into a bunker at the end. Terminator 4 is the one with the guy who played Batman in it, where there's a machine that doesn't know he's a machine anymore. It's a human that's been turned into a machine but still has human parts. And then there's like one or two more. There's one more after that where I think there's one more after that where John Connor is actually killed, and then there's one more after that where John Connor ends up being somebody who merges with the machine, something like that, right? How you doing, Sister Latoya? Then there's the Matrix series, Matrix 1. We're introduced to Neo. He does his thing. It was supposed to only be one movie. It turns into two more movies after that because they make so much money. So they do Matrix 2, Matrix 3. What is it? Matrix Revelation and Matrix Revolution or something like that. And then from there, then you have the fourth Matrix that just came out, last year, something like that. A lot of people don't know this, though. One of the things that actually happened, because a lot of people don't know, was a sister who actually wrote both of those. She actually had to, especially for the Matrix, she actually had to take legal action because the Cohen, not the Cohen brothers, or something, Wachovia brothers, or something like that. They actually stole her intellectual property, and they wouldn't give her any money for it. So she had to take a long legal case against it. She finally won. And, but a lot of people don't know she wrote both of them. And the way that she wrote them, something like that. Their brothers became sisters and all that, right? So, but basically a lot of people don't know that the woman who wrote both of those, she wrote, at least you got to give her Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and The Matrix. Everything else, you can see it start shifting all over the place because she didn't write it. But she wrote both of them to go together Terminator is the first part of it. Terminator 2 is the second part. That later on, when John Connor is 30 years of age, that's supposed to be Neo. And a lot of people don't recognize that, right? So there's actually something going on there. How you doing, Minister MIT Samaya Ray? So a lot of people aren't aware of that it's a whole series. How you doing, Sister Latoya Moon? We got 2 Latoyas on, amen. So a lot of people don't realize and recognize when you see those movies, you're actually dealing with one continued long story. A lot of people are not aware that you're dealing with one continuous story. How you doing, Sister Nadine? It's not just Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and then that was supposed to be it. Terminator 1 is when you have the machines coming after the mother of a child. Terminator 2 is when you have the machines coming after the child because they couldn't get to the mother, right? And then the Matrix is supposed to be when John Connor, and even if you look at the name descriptions, right, JC has become Neo. Neo is the one. So John Connor is JC. Then you have Neo, right? He is the one. And so as John Connor is the one, right? Neo is the one. That's because John Connor is JC. JC goes back to being who? Goes back to being the one that was being chased as a child, right? And had to be protected by a stepfather, right? That comes back. That actually was something that seemed like he would be against it. He comes from the machine himself, but somehow, some way is the reason why he's able to survive. And then the movie before that, that's because his mother was already asked by the person who was sent back to protect her in the first place if she would carry the child. Right? So these are the things that we have to recognize and realize, right? That we're already dealing. How you doing, Bahamian Princess? And somebody says, what does this have to do with animalistic behavior? Just hold on there, roll with me for a second, stay with me just for a second, okay? So in this animalistic behavior, we don't recognize and realize what's going on is that the whole story is really supposed to be that there's a beast, there's a machine, there's an animal-like behavior, and the people that are in charge are trying to get you and I to give up being human and to be an animal. Right? How you doing, Don? For example, if you are somebody who's supposed to give up who you are, and the beast is coming after you, in law, what is a human? In Western law, what is a human? How you doing, Omex King? Anybody remember? In law, what is a human? If we're going to talk about lawfully speaking, what is a human considered to be according to Western law? An animal, right? Matter of fact, if you look up, in some of them, they only have 2 words next to human. It'll say C as in SEE, C, look for monster. So then you have to go through your dictionary, right? Then you got to go through your dictionary, right? Right. And when I say you got to go through your dictionary, then you have to go through your dictionary. This is why reading is extremely important, right? This is all the laws. Well, not all the laws, but this is a whole bunch of law that you live by, right? And so you have to go and do some research. And when you go do some research and you look through this and then you see human, you turn to where it says human and you go, oh, okay, it says sea monster. So then you have to go look at the definition of monster. And when you look at the definition of monster, you will discover that within this definition, that it says that you don't have any rights. So somebody trying to be human is monstrous to the system. So their goal is to do what? To have us to think that we're animals. And if we act like animals, then we get away from our rights. Human rights involve kingdom living, and kingdom living involves free will. Animals are not supposed to, you're not supposed to worry about free will of animals. See, it's not that hard for me to bring it forward to you if you recognize what's going on as far as law and things. It's actually not even that difficult to deal with and to show you guys. Because if I were to simply just show you some things as far as human beings not having rights, well, or if you're not human, not considered to be human, well, we don't have to look too much further than chattel slavery. How you doing, Trauma Shaman? How you doing, Dream? Now, some people say, I'm tapped out. There he goes. Okay, fine. What about when the state of New York We don't have to go to England. We don't have to go to Russia. We don't have to go to Africa. What about when the state of New York, the people of New York's a country, right? 50 states, a state is a country by definition, right? So what about when you were at a country called New York, or if you know of a country called New York, a state called New York, where they had zoos, where they showed a certain group from a certain diaspora as animals. How you doing, Detailing Collins? And how you doing, Dre? And how you doing, Sister Tracy? Did that happen? Well, when that happens, if you show a group of people as an animal long enough, how do you think that the public is going to treat those group of people? If I show everything about your life, what'd you say? They treat them like what? Like trash, you said? Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I show you a group of people over and over in your life, right? A matter of fact, one of, and we're not going to say his name, don't say his name, okay? One of Solomon's friends, who's still his friend, young brother, young child from our diaspora. And he was busy telling me, yeah, you look like you come from Ghana and this and that and all that. And he said, yeah. Then he starts making animal sounds and doing this and doing that. And I said, well, what's wrong with me looking like I come from where my people come from? I literally can track my people to where I come from. And he goes, he didn't have anything to say. Then his sister was there, or well, his aunt, they're like really close together. She's like 11 or so, and he's like 4 or 5, something like that, maybe 5. So, but this girl who lives like his sister, but his person who's with him, as we're going to one of the places we're taking them out to play, she's like, well, yeah, what's wrong with that? Because she's got long hair. My wife's got long hair. Solomon has his hair. I have his hair. Solomon's hair has never even been cut, right, since his birth. And so, he didn't realize as we were talking to him, something like, yeah. And then by the end of the conversation we're having, he starts, saying, yeah. And he starts trying to like learn. He's like, wants to learn dances. He wants to learn like language. He wants to learn all these different things. But the reason is he didn't realize this because they had cut him off from himself. And when somebody takes you away from yourself, takes you away from your culture, takes you away from your people, you are treated like an animal. You begin to think like you're an animal because animals are supposed to be, right? Like animals, as far as the Western world is concerned, animals belong in zoos. Animals belong as pets. Animals belong to make sure that you can till land. So do I work out during Passover? I don't comprehend the question, but if somebody did, if you're talking about if it's supposed to be Shabbat or something like that, I don't find that to be problematic, although somebody would argue, but I'm talking about animalistic behavior, if you don't mind right now. So when we're talking about this stuff, you have to get into a place where you have a lot of people who are trying to take this and take away your culture, take away context of self. Like, who are you? We talked about this before. It doesn't matter where you come from. It matters who you come from. And how you doing, Salt Life? And thank you, Bahamian Princess, for the invite. So it doesn't matter where you come from. It matters who you come from. Now, if you come from nobody, then whoever you're under, they get to tell you where you come from. So going back to what we were talking about with Terminator and the Matrix, right? Once again, I know this seems like it's weird to do, but the writer of both of those, once again, Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and the Matrix are a continuous story, right? Even, and thank you for the love, appreciating how you doing, Sister Teresa. For example, how you doing, Ryan? Some people don't even recognize that. Remember we talked about in our culture, the age 30 matters when you're becoming a rabbi. Well, what age is Neo supposed to be in the Matrix? He's supposed to be 30. Can I be a rabbi? Can I go through the process of making sure he's taking care of people? Can I be tempted or tested? Can I have to fast from the system? Can I be tempted of the devil to see if he will give up who he is and become one with the system? He can't do any of those things until he's 30 years old, right? Because his culture states that. Now, in our culture, people do whatever they want, whatever age they want, and people come up with excuses. But once again, I've talked about this before. This is what you got. I'm not saying you can't be a preacher at 7. I'm not saying you can't be a prophet at 9, but guess what you can't be? You can't be a rabbi. How you doing, Sister Patricia? You cannot be a rabbi. Why? Because in our culture, you have to have some experience under you. So Yehoshua is not baptized until he's 30 years of age. Well, in the Matrix, Guess how old John Connor, JC, is? John Connor's supposed to be Neo. Neo's supposed to be the one. Remember, Neo's not his name. Neo is his nickname. Neo is the name he's given himself as somebody who, right? Remember, they don't tell you, they don't really tell you his name. But originally, the origin of his name, his name is actually, he's supposed to be John Connor. The same John Connor from Terminator 1, Terminator 2. How you doing, Stargate? So this is telling you some things that are cultural implications, right? A lot of people don't know, by the way, a lot of other characters too. For example, the Oracle. The Oracle is based off of the woman who wrote those movies. Her grandmother was a shaman. So since her grandmother was a shaman, she writes her grandmother in as an oracle. She's bringing together something culturally. She's giving you cultural statements. And by the way, she's full-blood Cherokee. Right now, I'm not full-blood, right? But I'm what you would consider to be Cherokee or Tisalagi or Anakatoya, etc. Right? And so what she's saying is that the people who are Cherokee are also tied to the people where the Messiah comes out of. How you doing, Michael Carr? Or Michael, appreciate you. Right? That's what the writer is telling us, right? She's trying to give us a cultural glimpse, and she's telling you the machine, the beast, even look the shape of the sentinels is beast-like, right? When you see the Matrix 3 and you start to see what the Matrix 2 and Matrix 3, you start to see things that move like animals, insects even. How you doing, Sheena? She's trying to tell you somebody's taken and stolen your culture, and she's trying to tell you that they're replacing other things. And then she's making it the point to say that you are a machine, or you should be under machines. And think about it. Even right now, I get it, right? I get it. If I'm not careful, the thought process that makes it look like, that, I'm sitting up here telling you about, machines while we're using machines. Right. But this is why we even have to know while using these that the devil is the prince of the air. He's the prince of the airwaves. Right. So all these things that are happening under the airwaves, but things are starting to get controlled where you are being placed in a pen like an animal. And thanks for being part of community self-life. Right. So people are placing us in a position to where you don't have to go to the movie theater anymore. Why? Because you can stream it automatically, and you can pay more money to stream it than you can to go to the movie theater. Weird. Right? Or, hey, now you don't have to go ahead and actually meet up with people anymore. Everything's just virtual. Hey, you know what? We're not just Facebook where we're for friends and family, but we're the metaverse. Pets, pet-like behavior. You see it? Mm-hmm. So pet-like behavior, right? You see what I'm saying? So these are things that we're going through. And we don't realize that people are trying to get you to become animalistic in your behavior to the point to where we keep talking about evolution, the evolution of your job, the evolution of your mindset. But how can you evolve into something that's eternal? Do you know who you are? You said you will, oh yeah, you will have nothing and be happy with it. Yeah. Just like an animal would. Now, an animal has enough sense to at least make sure that it's going to take care of its generations. And we are going to learn some things because we do come from Judah, lions, right? We do come from Naphtali, Impala or deer, right? We do come from Benjamin, who has the strength and the mindset and the thought process, the intelligence and the fighting skills of a wolf, right? But before we get there, now you're doing Prince, right? Before we get there, we have to first do what? We have to recognize that we've been asked to be part of animalistic behavior, right? We've been asked to raise animals and not raise children. Think about it, they call your children kids. Why? Because they're into goats, right? Everybody wants to talk about who's the goat, the greatest of all time. Right. We even have Kirk Franklin getting in trouble. Who's the goat? The lion and the lamb will bow down to the goat, but the goat is trying to get you into some animalistic behavior. You better be careful, to the point to where now we love sports, not because of the sports stories and all this stuff. We want to say all that, but for real, it's a gladiatorial sport. We like when people are willing to die for our amusement. How you doing? Be blessed. And by the way, did they not do the same thing with animals? Did they not? You remember now? They used to fill up the Colosseum with all types of stuff. Sure, they'd fill it up with people. They'd fill it up with water and put ships inside of it. I'm sorry.
Colosseum.
Yeah, the Colosseum in Rome, where they would have gladiatorial fights. And not only that, they would also fill them up with animals. They would go to Africa mostly, by the way, and they would get animals that nobody, people had heard rumors of, right? And they would have the animal. Now you go to the zoo and you do this, but they would bring them to the Coliseum and everybody would get to see them, and then they'd have the animals fight or people hunt the animals. Some of the animals that went extinct actually went extinct because they were being, and by the way, the Coliseum is just the most recognized one, but there were a whole bunch of Colosseums, if you will, that were built all over the Roman Empire. And they would take these animals, including human beings that they would think were like animals, and they would have them become slaves, and the animals were slaves. See, a slave is an animal is a slave, just like somebody who's in debt is a slave, and somebody who's a slave is in debt. Well, if you think that all animals are in debt to you and you treat people like they're animals, then that means the people are in debt to you, which means, guess what? The people are just as much slaves as the animals are. And just like they feel like they can tame a lion or they can tame a horse, by the way, look at the Willie Lynch letter. That's how they said they tamed you as a people. Is what they said. They said that they would use the same, and how you doing, Mactronics? They said they would use the same stuff. The circus as well. Yep, cirque. By the way, remember the word church and cirque go hand in hand. And also, we're not supposed to be about Nicolaitan doctrine. Nicholas, somebody who conquers you. Laity, people who are in the lay people in the service. So you are a people who are conquered during services, right? And you have the three-ring master over the circus who's speaking to you during the service. And people dance and they do all types of stuff and they pay money and do all these different things. And they're talking about trying to make you like animals. Yes, sir.
There's a picture of one person as an elephant.
A black person is an elephant? Well, yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we talked about that the other day. And so, yeah, so they have a lot of different things that are here to try and get us to believe that you're not human, right? By the way, what race are you? And don't get mad at me. Just listen, hear me out. If you've never heard me discuss this, you'll see what I'm talking about in a second before you think you know where I'm going, just in case you think I'm going somewhere I'm not supposed to. How you doing, Shell 200? But just a quick question. What race are you? Said you always knew we were descendant of royalty, amen. What race are you? Think about it. What race are you? How you doing, Life Hacker? Think about this carefully. What race are you? Where did the term race even come from? How you doing, country girl? Does race matter as much as you think it does? Should it matter more than you think it does? You said you're Atlantean? Okay. So that's not technically so. So I got to know where people are going to go. I asked that question because people are going to go all over the place. You ready for this? The word race. What does it mean to be in a race? Solomon, if you and I were going to race each other, what does that mean? See, before they taught us all this stuff, when we were children, we actually got this. We knew what this stuff was. Well, if you and I were going to race each other, what does that mean?
That means to run.
To run and to see who's going to win?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. A competition, right? And if you were to win, then you would win the race, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So it's really weird that we as children kind of had that on lockdown, but after they trained you enough and sent you to school and did some other things, we lost some of that. Right? Now, you said someone had to be ahead of us and someone behind, right? Or even if you're tied, whatever, like, right? So that's a race. You're a spirit in a body. Okay, so that would mean you were a human. Humus man is a humus, dark, rich, nutrient, earth man. But the spirit inside, and then the soul is breathed inside. Therefore, you become pneumatical or pneuma, or you become a nachavash, right? Or I'm sorry, that's soul, excuse me. Or you become, yeah, I said it right. So you become a spirit, or even mom or men in our culture, our language, right? So you become water, body, and spirit together, right? You're 3 in 1. You're right. You're not one by itself. Hold on one second, sir. But if I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. What is it? What would you like to say?
There's, if you can See, there's literally like a person, and someone is in the hospital, and they take their whole brain out, and they put in cores like he's a cyborg.
Well, yeah, they do stuff with people like that, yeah. But we get to that in a little bit. We are talking about machines and going back and forth, but just give me a second, okay? So if you talk about race, right? If you talk about race, the word race is competition, right? So racism, technically, because ISM on any word, we're talking about systemic or systematic things. So racism is a system of competition. But it didn't start off with humans being involved with it, because humans were not considered to be animals. Once I make a human being an animal, now I can change your whole thought process of how you describe yourself and your race. Right? So there used to be, so this is where the word race really starts. I won't even say starts, but this is where the word race, as you use it, kind of starts to pick up steam. The word race, as you use it, is dealing with somebody called Carl Linnaeus. Right? Now, Carl Linnaeus is important. The machine, the beast, has got you to believe this. See, but Carl Linnaeus is important to this. How you doing, Sister Tamal? Because Carl Linnaeus is the first person that started saying that there was a such thing as race attached to living beings. Because he, as far as how you use it, why? Because race, no, not your aunt, Tamal, somebody else. All right, but race, but but race is was something that Carl Linnaeus started saying had to do with the animals. So he started saying that animals were in competition with each other. And since animals were in competition with each other, they were animal races. Right? Now, what are we talking about in this series? Animalistic behavior. This is the foundation. We're going to lay the foundation, but we need you to comprehend what's going on. See, because now Carl Linnaeus' thought process starts permeating Western and Eurocentric thought. So, and that's why, by the way, you compete against each other, because you think you're a human race, because you think that humans are animals. Remember, we just showed you in law, right? We told you something as simple as Black's Law Dictionary. Change your mind, change your world. A lot of reading, but you can look up what they think about you. If you are a human race, what you're saying is I'm a competition with other animals. And if every human is part of the same race, because see, that's really the way people think that's the smart answer now, right? I'm sorry, what you say? You said race comes from the categorization of animals based upon procreation, right? So if now you say race, right? How you doing, Sister Tori? So now if you're part of a human race, you're saying that I am in competition with other animals. And then if we break it down to where there's different races of humans, well, then now you're in competition with other humans. And so racism is a system which it's okay to compete against other humans and to say that one race or one group of people that have been procreated are better than another. How you doing, Mary? Thanks for being part of the community today. So race is a concept that was made by slave masters of not just Blacks, because you got to recognize that the people that are in charge, the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the 1%, could really care less about the color of your skin. They care about it concerning their family, but they're not really concerned about it with their money, because everybody pays the top people. You said that's why you have the Olympics. Kind of, sort of. I mean, we can talk about the Greeks who, created it, but it's going back to a Colosseum thing, but same principle, right? But people like to see slaves or people that are supposed to be the strongest of their people compete against each other, right? So you can say before we called it racism, there's definitely things. And by the way, when you say Greek, we don't mean white. Remember, there's no such thing as the color white. White is the absence of color, the reflection of color. You can see through it, right? But it's not, it has no, well, there's no such color as white, right? But when you start when they lied to you and told you there was a white race, they had to tell you there was a white person. When they lied to you and said that there was a such thing as race, and you had a race, now I got to come up with all types of stuff to continue the cognitive dissonance. You see that? So we're having an issue here because we actually believe that race is reality. But in reality, there is no race. I don't even have to compete or race against the devil, like, because he's defeated. Yeah, and first Greeks were melanated people, or at least, everybody. The further back we go into the story of mankind, the darker we all become, honestly. So even in the colorism, right, that's something that was stated, and that's something that was more so stated and started by Greeks anyways too, which they were doing, where it was people that had color, but they say because we have blue eyes and we have blonde hair, right? But it's animalistic behavior. They're trying to get you to do things, to look at traits and stuff in a manner in which we never really looked at them. I don't know. Do you eat fish? And I don't know what it, in all honesty, I just don't know what it has to do with anything. If it's a punchline that you're trying to get to, I guess, but I don't comprehend what we're going towards. But nevertheless, right? There you go. We aren't in competition with anything or anyone. Yeah. Praise Yahweh for chosen and set apart. And by the way, everybody has a part to play in the puzzle piece. So why would I want to race against you? This is why I tell people I'm not trying to win. I don't need to be right. I want to be righteous. Righteous means right, lawful standing. How you doing, Sister Judy? So I'm trying to be in right, lawful standing. I'm not trying to win a race. I'm not trying to be the number one race. Thanks for being part of the community, John. Appreciate you. So I'm not trying to be the number one race. I am confident and competent in who I am. And this is when you become dangerous, because see, when you don't have time for a race, you start to get to a place where you don't have time for certain arguments. When you don't have time for certain arguments, you don't have time for certain schooling. When you don't have time for certain schooling, you don't have time for certain jobs. You become unemployable when you're a human. It's difficult to employ you. We can do paperwork to do indentured servitude to a certain degree, but it's hard to employ somebody who's in their work and not in their job. Animals are supposed to keep jobbing and jobbing and jobbing, and they will give you a watch, and then maybe you'll be able to pay your bills off. Maybe you won't have to take a second mortgage. Even the word mortgage, they gauge your mortality. It's a Eurocentric process, a thought process. How you doing, Sissy? Thanks for being on to both of you. Right? It's a process that's saying somebody's gauging how long you're going to live. They treat you like animals. Right? Have you not found it interesting that people have studied your melanin before you were allowed to? If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, they had melanin conferences for decades and wouldn't allow people who were melanated to go to the melanin conference. How does that work? Do you not find it interesting that they're trying to force you into getting shots now, where before they just wouldn't tell you about the shot? They would go ahead and just make sure that they killed you off. Tuskegee experiments. Same state, and it used to be they would try to make you to sign off and vote to make sure that you couldn't have babies. They used to just walk into your homes and just take your baby girls from you and trick the parents who didn't know how to read or write because they didn't teach them how. They would make sure that they signed stuff with an X, tell them it was something different. Then they come take their girls, take them to the hospital, go ahead and make sure that they couldn't have babies, and then they give them back to the homes where you had generations of daughters who couldn't have generations of children. Therefore, abortion used to be even bigger than what you think it is today. Y'all are arguing about abortion as if it's something that's a free choice thing, when the reality is abortion was always attached to those who they thought were slaves. See how you doing, William? But when they treat you like a slave long enough, you act like that which you see. If they show you yourself in chains, if they show you yourself as like an animal long enough, how you doing, Sister Gertrude? Hear what I'm saying? If they show you to be an animal long enough, then you'll stop calling your baby a baby. You'll say that's just a fetus, because I've chosen to, because this fetus now is inside my body. And since it's inside my body, it's a race and it's in competition with my body. It might be in competition with my life. And so since I've decided I don't want to have competition with it, it must be expelled. We don't want to have honest conversations about where this stuff comes from. You keep talking, people will lift up Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger did not like Jews. She did not like Israelites. She did not like Black people. And little did you know, we were all one in the same, because they were a race. In any race, right? Hear what I'm about to show you. Any race has a right to be erased. Did you catch that? Any race of people has a right to be erased. Thank you for the love. Appreciate that. Hear what I'm saying. Any race, if you are a race, you have the right to be erased. And the people who have made up race, they know this. You said, how so? Because a race is a group of animals. You think there's a human race because you think humans are animals. But once again, just simple context, right? This is cultural now, even though this is part of Western culture too, but nobody learns it. Nobody wants to go into it. But law states that a human is a monster. So if you try to be a human and observe, and especially if you're part of the public and not part of the private, and you try to exert and enforce free will, which you can't really enforce it, but you know what I'm saying? If you try to live out free will, guess what happens? You are an enemy. And guess what? When I was in the United States military, I took this oath. I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States, that's the corporation, against what? All enemies, both foreign and domestic. So if you're public and you're coming against us, you're an enemy. But if you're private, well, then you have the right in your privacy to be able to say, as a sovereign of whatever. See, I decided to be a sovereign of Shwe, a sovereign of Anakitabuya, a sovereign of Hadashamayam. And as a sovereign member of those, I have the right to be treated correctly. But if not in the public, I try to go against it, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, because anybody, according to Western law, that tries to be a human, you are considered to be a monster. This is law. People want to argue about it. I'm talking law. I'm not talking, what it is that you want. I'm talking about the things that govern you. You said, so words are spelled. You can use words as spelled, sure. You can use words for righteousness. You can use words for evil. You can use words for greatness, right? Death and life is in the power of the tongue. A tongue belongs to a body. A body is a nation. A body can be a corporation. So death and life is in the power of the body, of the belief, of the nation, of the person, of the cells that come together as one group of being. Death and life is in the power of the tongue, and those that love it will eat the fruit thereof. You can love. Love is action. So you can enact positive, you can enact negative. Those that love it will eat the fruit thereof. I can tell the tree by the fruit it bears. I can tell if you're actually living as a human by the way the way your fruit operates. And thank you, Pringles, for being on. Appreciate you. Right. And how you doing, Freddie Mac? So look, we have a lot of people who have animalistic behavior and don't want to acknowledge it. And you think that you're free. This is one of the biggest things that's there. Going back once again to using the context that we started off with Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and The Matrix being written by the same sister. It was a continued story. The goal of that movie was to make sure that you realize that you don't have the control that you think you do. Matter of fact, you are controlled. And a sovereign or a free person really is never in control anyways. They are always controlled by something greater than themselves. The question is, what do you understand? There's a difference between comprehension and understand. Yes, I know some people overstand because you always want to be over everything. And I know some people want to understand because you say you got to get it from the stance within yourself. But hear what I'm saying? The word understand is not a curse word. It just simply means that you stand under something. If you go to a courtroom and they say, so-and-so, do you understand? Your answer 99% of the time should be no, I do not understand. Why? Because the second you say understand means what? That now we get to treat you like an animal. You have decided to stand under whatever I say. If I say you have to be locked up like an animal, you said you understood. See, any race has the right to be erased. And the people who made up the context of race, they recognize that. That's why they never write themselves down as a race. They always write themselves down as a people or a natural person. And we don't know the difference. You said, did I hear that The Matrix is a continuation of Terminator? I've read it. I listened to the author of all three of what I just said. I've known it for years because the writer knew it since she wrote The Terminator. And when she sued the brothers, Wachowski brothers, whatever, now Wachowski sisters, whatever they call themselves now, no shade. I don't know what they call themselves, right? But when she sued them and won, that's proof too. So I'll go ahead and go with truth, right? Truth is not, doesn't mean anything. If it doesn't matter how I feel about it, do whatever, like that's feckless in this conversation. How you doing, Brother Anthony? So we have to recognize that this stuff is there, and you're using this stuff and speaking this stuff all the time, not realizing it's animalistic behavior. Going back to race, because people don't want to even let you finish that statement, because they know something in your spirit, something controlling you, something in your environment has comprehension of this greater than you, and it's time that you start taking leadership over your environment rather than being led by an environment that's foreign to you. You said your distant aunt was the one. You were the Terminator suit one. Oh, okay. All right. How you doing, Alvis Vanessa? Thanks for being on. I hope I said that correctly. Right? Alvis. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly. But hear what I'm saying. We're having a fight now. Because somebody's telling you that there are people out there that look at you like animals, and if you're not careful, you'll start acting like what they're treating you like. We talked about this before in the last series we just came out of. Don't be upset with me because I told you about the recipe. You ain't mad at me, you're mad at the ingredients. And if you're mad at the ingredients, you're not mad at the ingredients, you're really mad at the book, or at the recipe. But if you're mad at the recipe, don't be mad at the recipe, you're really mad at the book. But if you're not mad at the book, then don't be mad at the book, you're mad at the one who wrote the book. Right? You're mad at the one who wrote the book. You're mad at the one who wrote the book. However far back you want to go with it. You're having a bad conversation or a bad argument. Now, once again, when I say any race can be erased, how is it? But watch this. Work with me now. Somebody says that doesn't make sense. How can you say that any race can be erased? What I'm saying is that, well, if race was created and they just made it up, then how easily can they keep changing it? Come on, black folk, because weren't you at one point you were Negro? Before that, you were either Yastao, Shui, or Igbo. The list goes on and on and on, right? You were all these different things all over the world. Then you all were just Negro, and Negroes were slaves. And by the way, natives were even considered, Native Americans were considered to be Negroes as well. And then you went from that to all of a sudden you were all property. And then you went from that to you were blacks. And then you went from that to you were Negro. But somewhere in there you were actually freedmen, but you don't call yourself freedmen anymore because freedmen is a nation. Freedmen deserve respect. Freedmen deserve respect. So you don't want to be freedmen anymore. You just want to be black, but that's okay. And by the way, I don't mind being black, just not on paper, because I comprehend the difference. But then you became black, then all of a sudden you became Negro again, and then all of a sudden you went from Negro to you wanted to be African American. And now you just want to be, don't call me anything. I'll just, whatever I feel like being. And none of them are protected by law, except freedmen, at least by Western law. And you don't want to be sovereign. You don't want to have free will at all. So somebody says you might want to come out of that. But it's animalistic behavior to say you can change who I am. People want to say that I'm wrong. But see, watch this. If I said that all of y'all are Negroes, which by the way, Negro or Negro is actually one of the most ancient ways of saying that somebody's West African, because West African people and Moorish people and others actually built up Spain. Look up the Carthaginians, look up the Phoenicians, look up many West African tribes. They did this, right? So I'm not just saying something off the cuff, right? They actually taught, remember, Spain was not a country until 1491. It was not a state. There were no group of people known as the Spanish, right? At least not the way you think about it, until 1491, the year before Christopher Columbus in 1492 was sent to look for the Negroes again. In 1493, the doctrine of discovery was made official by the Roman Catholic Church, which is why they could discover your lands while you lived on it, because they considered you to be animals. The doctrine of discovery goes back technically to 1452, but they didn't make it finalized until 1493. Why? Because in 1492, Christopher Columbus said, I can find these Negroes, and he brought a Hebrew interpreter to go find them. He had been sailing with people since 1482, and in 1491, they had beat the last Moorish king out of Europe. And they made slaves of those people and asked the Pope for permission to go looking for slaves that looked like Negroes. They considered Negroes to be Sephardic Jews. Who were Sephardic Jews? They were swarthy people who lived in Spain, who lived in Portugal, and who lived in ghettos. They dressed in hoodies. They put poetry over music. They didn't eat pork. They were into women. They weren't bisexual, and they were considered to be strong, and they had strong locks. And they said, can we take away those people's rights and make them animals? Was the answer was yes. Chattel slavery. Now, I'm not going to act like there was no such thing as chattel slavery in any African nation or any native tribe whatsoever, right? But and there were people that straight up, they did disgusting things as well. Anybody who did slavery was bad, right? But there's even levels to that, because most of the slavery that you're going to see before chattel slavery has to deal with people who were captured in war or who had done wrong things. They didn't have prisons. So guess what? If you did something wrong, or if you were somebody who fought against us, guess what? You might have to come and live under us, but you didn't have to walk around in chains. And you had rights to marry into the family. And you had rights to have children. And you weren't bred. So even when somebody tries to get you and I, they say, oh, but everybody was enslaved. Was everybody bred like animals? Yeah, Doctrine of Discovery. Look it up. 1452 is when basically the Pope started enacting it. 1493 is when he said, hey, if you don't look like us and you don't worship our God, then you can go ahead and be captured. If there's no white person on your place that doesn't wear white male on our place, where that's what a person is, still by law. Once again, you got to know how law works. Still by law. There's a difference between a person and a natural person. And if you're just a person, you're supposed to be a male by law. Right. And in Israel, especially, yeah, we would let people go. No, you couldn't have somebody as an indentured servant any longer than 7 years. And every 50 years, the year of Jubilee was supposed to be reset. Everybody was supposed to go back. Any debt, period. Even if you had found a way to finesse it, every debt goes back to zero. So even when you talk about slavery / indentured servitude for different cultures, you still have to recognize who's doing what. See, we didn't treat people like animals. If somebody was going to die or be killed, I'm not going to act like people didn't get died or didn't die or weren't killed. But you didn't get to treat them like animals for years and get to say anybody born out of you gets to be an animal. I'm not saying it was perfect. Slavery is terrible, no matter who does it. Once again, how you doing, Jason? Right, but we're not going to act like everybody did the same thing. This is why we always have to go back to a word that we don't like to talk about called culture. And in the culture, especially a Western Eurocentric culture, that's systemic and systematically put in place, they want people to believe and identify with animals. Going back now to Carl Linnaeus, who I had started talking about in the first place. Praise y'all. And those who are on the podcast, thanks for being on. You can check out the rest on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you for being on one more again. So going back to what I was talking about initially with animals. If we're going to talk about animalistic behavior, right? Let's just keep it about. Going back to what I was talking about when we were talking about with animals. Okay. Carl Linnaeus, he basically takes what you call races and starts making it to the next level. We have when they said animals, thank you for the love. They said animals were in competition one with another, right? That's where the term race comes from. So since they were in competition with each other, they had animal races. How you doing, D. Grandison? Right. Out of that, he says, well, humans must come from animals. So then you start getting the animal race. And out of that, then he says, well, there's 4 types of human, 4 types of race. So that's why you say human race. And he put them in order. He said it was using colonial construct. He said white race. Now he used Latin terms because, if it's not Latin, then it's not real. It's not scientific. Why do you think that? Because only what people who speak Latin or people who are of the culture of Latin behavior, they can only be considered to be humans, right? Or at least humans worth listening to. It's race. So he basically said, look, white folk were on the top. Native Americans were second. Asians were third. And then African people or anybody that was black was fourth. He said the whole world got into 4 races. Interestingly enough, basically that's what a lot of people be talking about today. You act like there's only white people, Spanish people, Asian people, or black people. Can you see how that might inform you if that's something that happened hundreds of years ago and you're still using the same context? But see, it doesn't even stop there, because we can go not just hundreds of years ago, we can just go about almost 200 years ago, right? We're coming up close. We're still about, 30 years, 40 years short, but of being 200 years. So let's say to be safe, about 100 and a half. Oh, thank you for that, Sister Nadine. Appreciate it. Right? Let's just say 150 years ago. Not that long, because I know some of y'all think that's a long time, but you know that there are people who were alive during the Civil War and had babies that were later when they were later in age, and those people had babies that were later in age, or when they were later in age. And so there are grandchildren that are still alive of people that fought in the Civil War. You know, we could actually listen to the sounds of people singing, dancing, and even speaking of their experiences of the Civil War. Like we can listen to them talk about it. It's been recorded. So there's this weird thing in your thought process that makes you think this stuff happened too long ago. Why are you always bringing up old stuff? The reason why racism is still here because you just keep bringing it up. No, there are still people alive who listen to their grandparents. Well, maybe not listen to them because their grandparents would have been too old, but could listen to their parents tell them stories that they heard from their grandparents about the Civil War. Like, you know, there are still people alive that were sharecroppers. That's somebody who was dipping their toe in outright, full out chattel slavery. And by the way, a lot of sharecroppers were treated as slaves. You know this, right? Like, you know that there were people that literally were caught in 2021, I believe, in Georgia. Is it 2022 or 2021? I could be off, but let's just say let's just say to be safe, 2 years ago, there were people who were caught enslaving brown and black people on plantations in Georgia, chattel slavery. Do you think that that's too far? That's just a one-off? Don't forget that there are people who tell you experiences about in the 60s and 70s. It's on Netflix, where in the South it was known that chattel slavery was still happening. It was just happening in places where it was hard to get to and hard to see. And there's people that speak about their experiences and tell you about people that they saw hung, and they saw their mothers being SA'd over and over and over again, but they were too young, and so they couldn't fight back, and they got beat up too many times, and so they just had to start going with it in order to survive. This stuff is not, how you doing, Brother Allen? This stuff is not old, right? If we talk about the 70s, how many of you were born in the 70s? How many of you were born in the 60s? How many of you listening were born in the 50s? Right? Let's stop playing with it, right? But animalistic behavior, if you come away from your humanity, you don't even think about that anymore, do you? Now, why was I using that, getting back to Carl Linnaeus, right? Because my father was born in the 50s, my mother born in the 50s. So the 50s ain't that far ago, or it's not that long ago. My father is born in 1953. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't get killed till wasn't murdered, assassinated till 1968. My father, 13 years old, 12, 13, whichever one. So he would have been old enough to remember where he was. My mother would have been, 10 or 11 years old when that happened. She would have been old enough to remember what happened that day. But somebody says, why you bring that up? That's not that long ago, right? And that means that I was raised by people who were affected by what happened in 1968. I was raised by people who were affected in what happened in the 1950s. I was raised by people who had to deal with coming home and losing their mind because they were treated better by Koreans in the Korea War than they were by their own supposed people and country. So when you come to me with that, it's a fallacy. It's a weird fallacy at that, right? Right? Like I know my grandparents, or knew them, right? So I know the grandmother, my paternal grandmother, excuse me. I know her stories about her being SA because of the color of skin. She walked in the wrong place. And her grandmother, I've told y'all stories about the fact that we have cousins and stuff. Like, this is not, not cousins generationally, I guess, but some of them like 40 years, 50 years our senior, who would tell stories about how they walked through West Virginia and they were trying to teach children. And on the way to teaching children, they would get SA, and they'd have to make a decision. Am I still going to teach these babies, or I'm the only teacher they'll have? If I just let myself fall apart and actually deal with my trauma, they won't be able to be educated. So they would deal with that on almost a weekly basis sometimes to make sure children got taught. So you can tell me all day that it's old and it's long ago, but this stuff is still affecting people to this day. right? This stuff is still affecting people till this day. I know my grandmother, who is my maternal grandmother, excuse me, who's Jamaican, which is where our bloodline goes back to through her to get back to to West Africa, to Ghana. And when we go back over there through her, I know what it was for her to be considered to be great in some circles, because she looked like a straight, like I tell people this, people don't believe me till I show them her picture. You would have thought she looked like Queen Elizabeth, but she was one of us. But also that meant that she was mistreated by our own people because she was too light skinned. There's some folk on from Jamaica now, they'll tell you that colorism works both ways. If you're dark, you consider one thing, and if you're too light, Bob Marley was considered to be too light. So I can only imagine what she went through, right? Bob Marley didn't grow up loved by all his people. They didn't like Bob Marley when he was younger because he was considered to be too light skinned. He was loved by all his people when he got to be older, but he wasn't loved by all his people when he was a little boy. He'd tell you that. That's why he writes songs, right? That the stone that the builder, even though it's biblical, but he wrote songs up, the stone that the builders rejected has become the chief cornerstone. Why? Because of colorism, something that was brought over. And they left with our people, and our people fight each other so much about colorism. You would think that we started it. But this all goes back to race. Once again, see, race is saying that you're an animal. We have animalistic behavior and animalistic tendencies that we're carrying, and if we're not careful, you'll begin to act like what they told you you are. They sold you on something that you've never been. Right? You yourself have been rejected, but it's time for you, in a sense, we know that Yahshua is the chief cornerstone, but here the context of it, it's time for you to realize that you are a powerful cornerstone. You are not an animal. Now go back to Carl Linnaeus. Carl Linnaeus said what? Now, why was I even mentioning about 150 years ago? Right? I know we're not close. That's why I said maybe we're 30, 40 years removed from getting to 200, but right? But 1859, important date. 1859, very important date. Why? Why is 1859 a very important date? Now, you could say some certain things happened in the United States, Civil War, and all this is about to take place. The Kansas Wars, Pastor John Brown is killed with the whole thing. But I want you to think worldwide, especially as far as our diaspora, people against your diaspora. All that stuff happened with the girls' basketball game for sure. But 1859. Why is that such an important date? For your humanity that was attacked. Why do you think that's such an important date? This is why we got to know our people. We got to know what's going on. We got to know what people have done against us, or they're still doing against you using the same thought process. 1859 is extremely crucial, extremely important, and it's something that you must make sure you take note of, because 1859, when you have Charles Darwin's book come out, based off of everything that Carl Linnaeus was teaching, and then some. You said you knew your great-great-grandfather who lived after the Civil War, and you're under 50, and your grandparents had to flee their homes because of race riots. It's all in living memory, yeah. Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day who watches some of our property for us when we be traveling in the Baltimore area, and I was telling he's been blessed to be able to get some work. He's a master mechanic, but he's never been able to get like the official paperwork to say it. So now he's finally been able to finish his school, and he's going to start either working for what do you call it in Maryland, MTA, or either DC WMATA, basically, taking care of putting buses and stuff together and stuff like that. So you're going to be getting some nice cheese, so to speak, right? But I was telling him, man, I wish that this brother that I actually had, I was the official over their wedding. I was like, I wish this brother was still alive, because he would have been able to hook you up. He was a really high-ranking brother. Even when he had retired, they would bring him back for all the meetings and stuff. And I was telling him about him, but I was also explaining to him that when he was alive, he was from Baltimore. So he was alive when King was assassinated. And so a lot of stuff that I look through, and a lot of people that we help out, and a lot of buildings that are still even abandoned to this day, he was like, yeah, he saw all that and almost got killed. And if he hadn't worked, and a police officer almost got to him, and then people who were doing the riots almost got to him. Everybody's supposed to stay inside. And if he hadn't had his, forgive me, his work uniform, what do you call the one piece? I don't know why I'm forgetting what the one piece called, but if he hadn't had it on, he would have been killed. And he had actually been part of when, I don't know if it was when Malcolm was killed or somebody else, but when the DC riots had happened for another time, he had actually happened to be in DC for Metro. So it might be later, the 70s maybe, and DC. And there was a time when they had sprayed businesses and they had spray painted. People thought that spray paint, some of it is still around today. They thought that it meant that, it was just people being vandals while they were doing it. No, they actually had spray painted, letting people know, leave that business alone. They help our diaspora. Take that building down. They're against this type thing. And he almost got killed in that. So, so that brother, he just passed away about 3 years ago. Right. So people act like this stuff is so far removed from us, and it's definitely not. It's definitely not. People act like it's so far removed from us. It's so against, it's so against the grain. How you doing, acoustic? That we can't use this stuff. Once again, go back to 1859. 1859 is when Charles Darwin writes his book. And we just talked about Carl Linnaeus, who told you what races were and told you that now you were a human race. And now that you were a human race, you had many races. See, there can't be many races if there's not one race first. Don't let anybody fool you. They're trying to get you to say, well, if we would stop saying there were many races, then we can go to being one race. No. If there's one race, there are many. If there's one animal, there's many types of animals. If you consider yourself to be a race, you consider yourself to be an animal. And if they can make up species and make up evolution and make up this and make up that, guess what? They can make you up. And if they can make you up, they can erase you. That's why I said earlier, when somebody was so anti what I was saying, that's why I said, look, if you are a race, then you can be erased. Be a nation. Right? Back to Charles Darwin now. Charles Darwin writes a book on evolution, 1859. Popular book. People still read it to this day. Guess what the book is called? I see you, Money Green. Yeah, that's very true. That happens even to this day. Guess what his book is called? His book is called The Origin of Species. By means, it really should be The Origin of Species, colon, the theory of evolution, but we'll leave that part alone. The Origin of Species by means of natural selection. Okay, so a lot of y'all even talk about natural selection. The Origin of Species by means of natural selection. And then what's the rest of the title, though? Full title. The Origin of Species by means of natural selection, or or the struggle for I'm getting it wrong, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. It's called, the name of Charles Darwin's book, written in 1859, right when they're getting into the Civil War. Same time frame is what? The Origin of Species by means of natural selection, or the survival, or the struggle. I gotta look it up now. The favorite races in the struggle for life. I'm messing up the last part of it. I'm messing up the last part. Do your research, try to Google it. I've been having issues with my Google machine lately. Right, but you'll see what I'm saying. If somebody can look it up for us, that'd be great too. Right, if you can look it up for me real quick. Right, but it's the origin of species by means of natural selection, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life, or the preservation of favored races in the struggle for life. That's the title of the book. Right, that's the title of the book. How you doing, Dice Apple? It's what? Once again, it is the Origin of Species. This is Charles Darwin's book, The Origin of Species, by means of natural selection, or the preservation of favored races, animals, in the struggle for life. And all humans come from different animals, but according to Carl Linnaeus. And somebody says, how do you put the two together? Look after you read the title, go into the part that's in the bottom of parentheses towards the bottom. And what you will discover is that it says that this is what? It says that this is something that is backed by Royal Society, by geological societies, and it says it's backed by Linnaean societies or Linnaean doctrine, those who uphold what Carl Linnaeus did. So if Carl Linnaeus doesn't tell you that you're an animal and then tell you that there's 4 different types of animals because you come from animals and you are racist, therefore you're competition, then Charles Darwin can't write this book about how there's even more versions of racist animals and more versions of you being racist animals that come with it. And therefore, in the title, he tells you that it's the origin of species. This is where we originated from. He's changing the origin. And he's saying it's the theory, this theory of evolution, he's telling you, is by means of natural selection. He's saying it's by means of the way that you have been selected in nature, according to what they say nature is, their God say nature is, right? Because don't forget that Charles Darwin's only time going to school, he only went to school to become a preacher. So this is theology for them. As much as they want to tell you all this stuff and don't listen to these preachers, Charles Darwin is a preacher. And he says that he wrote the book to show you that there needs to be the preservation of favored races. So not every race is favored. Interesting, because when we say that Israel is favored to a position, not that we're better, but because there's a chain of command. And so we say we can be a favored people and it's okay for us to be human beings. They tell you we're wrong when we say that because we're reversed races. But then they'll use Charles Darwin to tell you, and Charles Darwin says that you are supposed to preserve favored races. What do we do with that? Should I teach that to my child? Sound like you all over the place. Sounds like you don't know what you're talking about. But I'm supposed to just believe it. But see, once again, who was it backed by? Who was the book backed by? By the Royal Society, by the Geological Society, and by those who loved Carl Linnaeus' doctrine. It's all doctrine, it's all culture. That's all we're dealing with is doctrine and culture. That's it. Hey, how you doing, Brother Henry? That's all they're talking about, doctrine and culture. So if that's your doctrine, that's the thing you lift up and that's your culture, and you want me to be an animal, and you say that certain races, certain animals, and then you say humans are animals, human race, so certain races of human, certain development of animals should be treated better than others, and they should not only be better than others, they should be favored. Should that be my standard? If you said already that on the list, I'm low on the totem, or I'm low on your list. Because in our culture, a totem pole, what's at the bottom of the totem is actually the most important thing, is foundational. And what's at the top is actually not as important or comes after what was laid on the bottom. You say it's racist when they say it, or when we say it, but it's evolution when they say it. There you go. Since systemic racism hasn't been implanted, my white stepmother just told me racism was beat into her brothers by her father. In the end, her father was forgiven because he accepted Jesus. My stepmom's still alive and 60 years old. The theory the Big Bang came from peace. Yeah, well, the theory, technically, if you're talking about the Big Bang, it wasn't even called the Big Bang, right? Until a famous radio program started calling it that. But really, if you want to talk about the Big Bang, you got to go back to Greece. It's religious. If it's a theory, then it's theological. It's the same thing, right? Theory, theology. And really, ology, the part added on it, so it's real theos anyways. The ology added on to it is just talking about the logic of it or the study of it. So if it's theory, you can study it. And really, that's all theories are. If I can just help you out with something real quick, this is something that really blessed me. Dr. Leah Africa taught this, and once I got this, I was like, man, I got this. How you doing, Brother Reginald? It's very simple. If I'm dealing with something that's a theory, this is how a theory works. A theory is never a fact. The theory is something that allows us to discuss something. That's all a theory is supposed to be, right? That's all the theory is designed to do. A theory is not designed to ever be treated as fact. This is why scientists, not all, but what people act like are the only scientists that exist. This is why a lot of people are now saying that all theories are just designed to be beat up and thrown away and have new theories replace them over and over again. But a theory is never supposed to be treated like a fact. Amen, Brother Henry. And that's one of the issues. Theories should never be treated as fact. If anybody says I have a theory about anything, then what they're saying, this is what they're saying. A theory is not a fact. This is what a theory is. Look at a theory as the letter B. Let's do a little somewhat mathematical equation, right? Somewhat Pythagorean theorem type of equation. All right. If a theory is here, let's equate the theory to B. A is the known. C, so let's say A is where we are, and A is where we come from, and it's known. Sorry, so A is a known origin. Let's say A is a known origin. B is the theory, and C is our known present. Let's just do it like that, right? A is known origin. C is known present. We absolutely, without a shadow of doubt, know this in the present. We absolutely, without a shadow of doubt, know this in the past. A is the known origin. C is known present. In the middle is B. We have this theory. We don't know we don't know what happened from A to C in between. We know what happened at A. We know what happened at C. It's documented. However, we can't really figure out what happened at B. So what do? We come up with a theory, B, which we say, hey, okay, we'll use this as something. This is the best we got. It seems to make sense. At least we can do something to help us out. And until we can figure out whether this is 100% right or not, we can at least use this as a discussion point, as something to teach, as something to be able to utilize, right? But it never is supposed to be ever treated as fact. Yes, the missing information in between. That's all a theory really is that I don't know how to get from A to C, so I'll give you B. B is the best I can do. I think B is good, but it's a thought process. It's not a fact, right? It might be contextual. It might have some facts in it, but it cannot be treated as 100%. It might even be 95%, but there's going to be some 5% that's going to be off. That's what a theory is. So if I have a theory, what happens? What do I then have to do? I have to have I have to have faith in the theory in order to make it work. Problem with that is, though, is that I have to have faith in something that's not 100%. You catch that? Because they tell us that we should live in faith. We should live in what they say is fact. It's ideology, right? What is an ideal, by the way? Because ideology is the study of an ideal. What is an ideal? Not an idea, I-D-E-A, but an ideal, I-D-E-A-L. What an ideal is something that is when I make up a narrative, when I make up something, right? Or when I come up with different things to support my own narrative. By definition, that's what an ideal is. So, yes, I have many ideals, or even the theory can be an ideal. This is why when you use terms like theology, theos, things like that, they're telling you that they came up with these deities. They came up with these deists, with these gods. And so they came up with it, and it was the best that they had at the time. But see, Elohim is not a theory. See, and if you're not careful, they'll try to put all these different cultures together. People don't look at Yom Kippur as theoretical. People don't look at Imhotep as theoretical. Those are not gods. Those are not deists. They are not deities. People do not look at Elohim or Allah as theories. Right? But it was a theory that came from a Greek priest way back in the day, who, when they started putting together all these deities together, they came up with a new discussion. And Gaia technically is your Big Bang. How you doing, Sister Judith? I know we got Judy Tyler and Judith Lewis. Praise y'all. Right? So that's where your Big Bang came from. It came from a belief system, a priest. Today they would call it science. They would tell you that it's scientific. Interesting, right? How is that scientific? How is that scientific? I mean, somebody has to help me out. How is that scientific? If you say that I believe in Yah, and I would pick up the scroll, and you believe that my belief in the scroll is not correct because it requires too much faith in something that you say there's holes in. I don't, but you say there is. Really weird, because you are using theories, and theories are things that you can't back up, you can't support. It might be based off of something contextual, but it's not correct, and it's hard to do. Now, here's something else that I'm leaving out, because I can't just use this as the parameter, because once again, somebody would say, I don't know what I'm talking about. But so even by law, if something's theoretical, guess what it has to do? Guess what it has to be? By law, I'm sorry, if something's a theory, it has to be based on law. So if it's not based off of natural law, how can it be theoretical? Energy always turns into mass, mass always turns into energy. But they disproved that when they were having protons and electrons explode. They couldn't find the mass or the energy. They came up with a theory called protons, but they can't find a proton. I'm sorry, they came up with so since they had protons and electrons exploding, they came up with a theory called neutrons by very young, one of them even a teenager, but by very young people. And they can't prove that, so they came up with a theory called neutrinos. And they said neutrinos have to have mass because neutrons have to have mass of protons and electrons. They can't find where the energy is going to turn into mass. Then that must mean that in order for a neutron to exist, and even if it's invisible, it has to have mass. Problem with it is that it had no mass, because neutrinos, they say that they come from, they have to have what? They have to have mass, so they can't move faster than the speed of light. Problem is that the neutrinos move faster than the speed of light. So there's no such thing as a neutron, but you were taught there was, right? Now let's look. Now the problem is that when you deal with law, every theory has to be based off of law. So where's the law to back up your stuff? Then they came up with dark matter, right? Now dark matter is a theory, and you know why dark matter exists, right? Dark matter exists because I cannot talk about dark matter without talking about something called intelligent design. Now, this is a step away from what you and I believe anyways, but they tell you that we're way off. See, in intelligent design, how you doing, Shalom? In a theory called intelligent design, it says that the universe was smart enough to design itself and have a mindset to come together. Evolution. There's 6 types of evolution, by the way, right? There's evolution of animals, which we're going to be discussing a lot in this series. There is evolution of animals, right? As far as how they got here. There's 2 different types of that evolution, by the way, too. There's evolution for the universe. There's evolution of the earth. There's evolution of like, because you got to talk about evolution of the stars, things of that nature. You got to talk about evolution of many different things. Right. So if you talk about evolution, there's more than just one type of evolution. We can't put evolution into one nice little box, because people have to keep creating different types when they come into new discoveries, so to speak. But if we were to talk about law, what is a theory? Because if I don't know what a theory is, then somebody can give me a whole bunch of them, can't they? How many theories have you been taught in your entire life? Think about that. How you doing, Emmanuel? How many theories have you been taught in the entirety of your life? And how many of them have you found were lacking and left you absolutely wanting? Think about that now. How many theories have you been taught? Right? Let's just deal with some theories, right? Right, because there's legal theory, all types of stuff, but let's just deal with some theories. So there's a theory. Now, what is doctrine again, by the way? We got to make sure that we start in the same place. What is doctrine again? Doctrine is a belief system that's upheld by a group. Okay? United States Corporation has belief systems upheld by a group. Republicans have belief systems upheld by a group. Democrats have belief systems upheld by a group. People who are Christian have belief systems upheld by a group, right? Followers of the way have belief systems upheld by a group. We're not talking about anything other than belief systems upheld by a group. So what is a theory upheld by a group? Let's look at something called the theory of pleading doctrine. The theory of pleading doctrine. The principle, now outmoded, that one must prove a case exactly as pleaded. So if you plead innocent or you plead guilty, which you shouldn't plead because animals plead anyways. Remember, animalistic behavior, that's why you plead. So you shouldn't plead anyways. But nevertheless, I feel the same way, Ronnie. Nevertheless, the theory of pleading doctrine, the principle now outmoded that one must prove a case exactly as pleaded. What does that mean? That means that there used to be a theory that said that I say you're innocent, I have to prove you're innocent. If I say you're guilty, I have to prove you're guilty. But this is telling you in their law that you don't have to be innocent or guilty for me to prove it. That sounds weird to you, doesn't it? But doesn't that make sense now when you're like, how are all these people getting in trouble for this? And thank you for the love. And thank you, Darius. Thanks for being on with this, right? And Israel's Blueprint, thanks for being on. That sounds weird until you start thinking to yourself, how do all these people that everybody knows they did it, somehow, some way they keep getting innocent, becoming innocent? People that are innocent, everybody knows they're innocent, somehow, some way they keep being guilty. Right? A few years ago, I can't remember the brother's name. We had actually done a lot behind the scenes to help. It was a brother in, I want to say, Alabama, Mississippi, Alabama, somewhere in there. And it was a big case around the United States, last minute around the world. And they had gone to the governor. The governor had said, we're going to go ahead and stay our hand back. And everybody celebrated. He was supposed to get till midnight, and then it was going to give his people enough time to make sure they wouldn't be executed. And then they executed them anyways at 9 p.m. that night. Maybe it was like 8 p.m. that night. No, you know what? It wasn't even. It was like 7 p.m. They had said around like 3 that day. And my wife and I, we were excited. We were calling up all these people and all these freedom fighters and all these warriors that were out here putting all that stuff out. And I remember it had to be around 7 because we were getting ready to start our kung fu class for adults. So it had to be around 7. I wasn't leading. I mean, we were part of a kung fu class. And as we were getting ready to start, it hit us. And like, so I remember like my wife's reaction and mine, and like I kind of crumbled almost to the ground, but I was able to kind of get ready and go. And she was really having a tough time. We had a tough time that night. Had a tough time kind of moving on from there for a few weeks. Right. But everybody knew he was innocent, but you don't got to prove him innocent. That's just a theory. Innocence is a theory in the world. You said you have yet some scientific laws have been disproven, yet they build. Yeah. I absolutely hate telling students the moon gets its light from the sun. Where does the Bible say that the moon has its own light? Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in there, right? But the theory, see, you think that there's a pleading, the theory of pleading. There's a theory of pleading doctrine. You pleading innocent or guilty, that is theoretical, that whatever you plead has to be proven. You can be guilty and still be said to be innocent. That's why you shouldn't plead in the first place. Right? Innocence until proven guilty doesn't mean anything if that's just a theory. So you didn't even know that's an old, antiquated thing. Theory of pleading doctrine from 1956. They don't do that no more. But in your mind, you think that innocent until proven guilty. Never that. If the theory of pleading doctrine is now considered to be something that is outmoded, then who cares if you're innocent or guilty? That's why you got to go into these courtrooms speaking law. You're thinking that the police officer sees somebody and they're supposed to think about them innocent until proven guilty. No, that's outdated. Matter of fact, it never really existed in the first place, but it's outdated. How you doing, Molly? Right? Or what about this? The theory of justice. Justice, according to them, is theoretical. Is a theory law? No, but a theory should be based on law. So let's see what they say. Let's see if this is based on law. Let's make sure. It could be. We got to make sure. This is from 1838, so this is supposed to have been around for a long time now. So this is a philosophical account. Oh, wait a minute. So it's a philosophy. Justice is a philosophy. What's your philosophy when it comes to justice? See, they're telling you the truth, but we don't study it. They're not going to teach this to you in school. They're not going to teach this to you on the internet. They're not going to teach this to you in your churches. They're not going to teach this to you, and your parents aren't teaching this to their children. So look. So the theory of justice. It's a philosophical account of what law ought to do for the people, whose conduct it governs, and how goodness or their gods is assembled in law. It's also termed as justice theory, if you've ever heard of that. So once again, it's a philosophical account, right? So somebody's accounting for a philosophy of what law ought to do for the people, whose conduct it governs, and how goodness is assembled in law. So the theory of justice, justice is theoretical. It's a theory, according to them. What is their justice based on? See, if justice was real, justice, whatever's just is eternal. It don't change today. It don't change tomorrow. It's always just. Well, in God we trust, just like when it's on your money, you got to ask, what does that even mean? What God, right? Right? They tell you in the Declaration of Independence, it's God that allowed for them to fight from the dictator so that they wouldn't become slaves. But these people who were writing your Declaration of Independence, if that's who you still subscribe to, those people were owning your people as slaves. There's a lot of stuff in there. You said the sentences they had out is unjust in itself. Hey, depending on your culture. If that's what you resonate with, that's what you rock with, then yeah, they can use the unjust to justify. Right? You got to ask, when they say in God we trust, who is that? And who is Father God for them? So you read the scripture, you see Father God in there, and you use their terminology. You don't even know who Father God is. Who is Father God to them? He's not my father. George Washington's Father God to them. Who's George Washington's father? Who did he bow down to and pray to? See, we make the assumption that they're talking about the same thing we're talking. We make the assumption that they are just, but they just told you, we just read out of Black's Law Dictionary that their father, their law, father is just source, right? If we just want to be honest about it, let's not make it so mystical that it's no longer practical. Salah. But they just told you, they just gave you game. They just said, peep game. We're going to show you what we think about humans. They're monsters. What we think about you, you're an animal. We think about you, you're an animal because you plead. And we're going to give you theories. Theories are supposed to be based on law. But are those lawful? Like, watch this. If law is eternal, and if anything that is just is eternal, anything that can be justified, right, in the eternal culture, in the eternal prism, it should be justified throughout all of eternity. So why do you have to amend a constitution if the constitution was just? Come on, y'all still. Come on, think with me now. Why would I have to amend something that's already just? How you doing, Romac? If it's perfect, if it doesn't need to be changed, how can I amend something that's already just? This is why we've been taught in reverse. Animalistic behavior. See, the animal that you see, watch this. You ever gone to a zoo? I was talking about this before, and I talk about this when we go to a lot of zoos, even though it's kind of a weird experience for me, but we can't really travel some of the places right now that I'd like to be able to travel to. So it kind of is what it is, unfortunately, because you got to go watch animals be in captivity. I got to be reminded of some of our own stuff, right? However, if you go and you look at a zoo and you see you see these big cats, and the big cats just be going back and forth, right? They just be going back and forth, right? They just going back and forth, and you see them just back and forth. And sometimes, I don't know if you've ever done this. You know, when I was younger, I just asked questions. I'd be like, why are they continuously pacing back and forth? And they'll tell you some nonsense, you know, the people that work there. Oh, well, you know, that's just what they do. And they're just, you know, maybe they're a little irritated. No. Like if they were in their culture, what you call the wild, if they were in their culture, they would have miles of territory. Not just acres. They would have miles of territory. And if human beings hadn't taken away a lot of their stuff that was out there, they would even have more miles than what we can study today. So, but you see it reversed. You've had your nature reversed so much that you had to, and so somebody has to go and amend that for you to fit their narrative, right? So they did that ideal. So now somebody has to amend that for you. Somebody has to go back and say, you know, big cats supposed to have miles of territory, right? You know, like lions are supposed to have miles of territory. The same thing with your Constitution. You know, women should be allowed to vote, right? Even though we don't vote in the kingdom. But if what they said was correct, what they really were saying is, you know, when women should be allowed to vote, what they were saying is, you know, women should be treated, you know, somewhat like men, right? That's what they did in your mind, because it is animalistic behavior, because of all the stuff that's been mistaken, because of our misworking of how law works, according even to the West. In your mind, they didn't teach you that stuff. So you think that it's okay to mistreat women, because guess what? When people say this, it's so wild. People say the patriarchy, nobody ever wants to talk about the culture. If you come out of a culture, you got to recognize, you keep recognizing the Constitution as who you plead to, as who you give your petition to. Remember what a petition is? A petition is a demand or request made upon a government according to its constitution, according to your constitutional rights. And you keep going to the constitutional rights and saying, I have constitutional right, going to the people who, when they first created your Constitution, said that you as a woman had none. That's all feminism is. Feminism is for the woman who kept saying, I'll act like I don't have rights now, but eventually you'll give me some rights. And then their husbands never gave them rights. Feminism is not made for the woman who is not considered to be a human being. This is why they don't serve our women in feminism. And I'm not saying I have a heaven and hell to put anybody in. I have to always say that, because whenever I mention LGBTQ plus, people want to act like you hate people. I don't hate people at all. I want to tell you the truth. Do you think the LGBTQ plus narrative is built for Black women, for Black people? Watch this. Do you think it's built for lesbians and gays and bisexuals and transsexuals and queers, etc.? Do you think that? Do you think that that's who it's for? Or do you think it still benefits the very patriarchy you say you're here to fight? I'm not saying, I'm not speaking against, even though it's not my belief system, I don't uphold LGBTQ plus. But look, whether I agree with you or not, I'm talking about law. Do you think that LGBTQ plus law benefits LGBTQ plus people? This is why law is important. They don't want us to talk about law. But let's talk about it today. Let's have some honest conversation, some honest dialogue. Watch this. According to law, how many rights does a LGBTQ plus person have? See, you don't recognize. I'm not saying that you should have no rights. I'm trying to tell you how law works. Law doesn't give rights. Law protects rights. According to the law, how many rights do you have? You got to know how to fight. You're fighting a fight without even knowing how to fight it. They're coming at you a certain way, and you're coming at them. They are your masters. See, remember, the word master doesn't necessarily mean what you think it does. Master means teacher. You don't know culture. So the people who taught you how to be animals are the very people that you're going to saying, stop treating me like an animal. Doesn't make sense. How you doing, Sandra? Right? You're going to the people who treated you like slaves and who taught you to be slaves and who taught you how to walk, talk, your culture, why something should be used. You're still using rhetoric that they taught you. You're still using a mindset. You have been manipulated. You think that that's the manual. See, the manual means the mind of the creator. We're living in cognitive dissonance, amen. Yeah, legalese is the majority of that is the language the majority don't speak. Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm just trying to show you. You are in a position to where you believe that what they told you was true. That's why you keep talking about you only got 46 presidents, and you don't realize that you have 54, and you don't realize before them there were people that set precedents before then. You don't realize that you can't have a president without a corporation. 28 USC 300215A. You have animalistic behavior. You are being treated like a pet. You are being put in a cage, and you're trying to tell me about the prism of how the world works from behind bars. You are a big cat. You are a lion. Lion of the tribe of Yehovah comes from your people. You are a lion meant to roar. You know, lions don't really roar the same in zoos the way that they roar in the wild. Y'all know that, right? You ever thought about that? If you want to hear lions roar, you don't want to really go to the zoo. I get irritated because I go to zoos, and a lot of times I always want to see the lion in some way, shape, or form. And I go to see the lion, and I wait and wait and wait 20, 30 minutes, and no roar. You might hear that little thing they do, right? And even that's kind of like powerful. If you listen to it long enough, you close your eyes, it kind of makes your body reverberate, right? But you want to hear a roar. Right? If you're ever able to be so and do so and be safe when you do so, go out to what they call the wild. See, we don't recognize this word sauvage en français, or this word wild, right? The French word for wild is savage. This word savage or wild just means that you're not part of their civilization. Once again, they're talking about animalistic behavior. Well, they're medicated some too, you can say that, sure. And they declaw them and they do a lot of different things. Right? But I need you to comprehend. Yeah, like the orca situation. Yeah. So we'll be talking about a lot of different animals through this series, as you can tell. Right. But I want you to realize like there's a lot of lions in captivity because and watch this. Here's the wild part. Because most lions that you see in zoos were never in their environment. See, their civilization is what the West calls wild. You say a wild lion, but see, that's a lion in his civilization. He's not a king from behind bars. Now, he has the king in him, but he can never truly be king from behind bars. This is why they put a bunch of your lions and your lioness, for real, behind bars. How you doing, Gabriel? Come on, Judah. Come on, Yehovah. Talk back to me. Roar, right? Don't be feeble in this. Don't be afraid to be who you are. See, like there's a reason why they have us in this situation. You hear what I'm saying? Like they don't want you to roar. A lioness roar is different in behind bars than it is out in the wild. There's nothing worse than a lion who never got to see himself. What do I mean by that? How do you know you're a lion when you've never seen one? Right? How do you know you're a lion when you've never seen one? How do you know you're a lion when you've never heard a lion roar? How are you a lion if you never grew up fighting amongst other lions so that when it's time for you to fight for your kingdom, you don't even have the skills? How do you become a lion when you've never seen? How do you become a lion when all you've ever seen is sheep or lambs or and I know we're supposed to be sheep. Hope you get the context. Let me use another animal just in case somebody's going. If you are lion and you're raised amongst wildebeest, even if the wildebeest accept you in, you're gonna be more wildebeest than lion. If you're a lion and you're raised around humans, no matter what you try to do, you're still gonna be what? A human. You might kill a human by accident. You might kill a human out of instinct, but it's not because you really wanted to. It's just something that's in you. But see, what's this? Lions in the wild, that's their civilization. If I'm not, yeah, exactly. How do I watch this? How do I become a king? And I've never seen a king. I'm not talking about somebody just says, peace, king. That's the beginning, so I'm talking about, what do kings wear? How do kings present themselves? How do kings treat queens? What does a king's territory look like? What does the king's roar look like? How does the king articulate what he wants the cubs to do? How does the king articulate what he would like the queen to do? What does the queen dictate to the king? Because, you know, the queen and the king both operate together. They can't have one without the other. What is this? What is a king? How powerful? How do you decide how a king is powerful enough to be able to secure his pride? If I've never seen it, how can I be what I've never seen? But you have many lions that have been born now for generations to lions, and none of them have ever seen a lion in civilization. They've only been in the wild. See, it is wild for a lion to live his life behind bars, even if he doesn't know it. It is wild for somebody to defend their slave master, even if they do not know it, or they're not aware of it. Come on, somebody. It is wild. What is civilization to the owner is wild to the pet. Right? And I'm not going to act like I'm perfect in this. We've had all types. Solomon has been blessed to have all types of pets. I ain't never had no pets except the fish, and I don't even think I had that in my immediate family being raised. Right? Was okay with dogs. I really like dogs. He had dog. It has them spread out all over the country, for real, for real. Got dog, cats, fish, turtles. Got tadpoles now. I don't know how that even happened. We just saw something, wanted to capture him in the jar, so now he's got tadpoles, growing. We're going to take them back because we ain't going to keep them, but we're going to bring them back, once they're protected enough to start, doing their own thing when they get older. But he had all these pets, right? But the pets that we have, they don't really know that it's really wild that they would be inside a house. Like, it's really weird. I'm not saying get rid of your pets, but I just want you to get the context. The pet doesn't know. Yeah, that's the issue we're having. A lot of our own people don't know their minds are in chains. Yeah. Matter of fact, a lot of our own people just don't have our own mind. Right? Like, remember Willie Lynch, they chained the mind of the first generation. They said after that, they said, we're going to keep the body and take the mind. They took the mind and put it to the side. They got your minds in a pile in the corner. We wanted to go deeper with that, Sister Shima, for real, for real. I like where you're headed. We could go, we can go much deeper with that. For real. Right? Like, because they don't even, see, they've taken the mind. Once again, watch this. If I were to come into a cage and there were some cubs in there with a lioness, and I were able to either put the lioness to sleep or whatever, the cubs can already be bigger and strong. Well, I won't say bigger as far as taller, but you know what I'm saying? The cubs could be big enough to already kill me. But because they are cubs and they've been around me and they've been in a cage and they've been, the only protecting they've had is their mother, guess what? I can walk in and be weaker than the cub. But because I've been its master or its teacher and taught it different than itself, the cub that could kill me will be afraid to the point to where I can come and still grab it by the scruff of its neck and pull it out, and it won't swipe at me. It has claws. It's heavier than me. It's stronger than me, and it will still bow down because it's never seen a king. And the queen that it's seen has had her queendom taken away from her too. The only thing she has left is her babies. And so she'll do whatever it takes to take care of those babies. But without the mother-father combination and without having them in their civilization, in the nature, in the natural world. How you doing, Jay? Without them being in the natural world or being naturally who they are, this could easily be something that I take over and take over the mind and have them afraid to fight for their freedom, to fight for free will. Well, the cats like to go free too for us, but they like to come back because what? Because it's guaranteed food. So they'll deal with some stuff. You know, for example, and to change, see, this is what happens, animalistic behavior, they will change, and we're going to be going through all types of this stuff as we go through the series, right? So I'm not going to go through everything today, but have you ever thought about the fact that a cat is not supposed to meow? At least not like what you think. Did you know that? Did y'all know cats don't meow if they're in the wild? They don't do that. Not just talking about big cats, I'm talking about your house cats, your pets. Right, y'all know cats do not meow. Did you know? The only reason why cats meow is because they're out of their culture. The reason why a cat meows is because it knows that it gets your attention. That's it. Thanks for the love, appreciate it. Like that's the reason why cats meow. They don't, if you see a cat out, you don't see them. Have you ever seen alley cat stuff like that? They don't just be meowing. Now, maybe if you're seeing them have sex or if they're getting fed by somebody, you see them meow. Cats don't really meow like that. They realize that you react a certain way because you like to hear meow. Something in you, because of when they're babies and stuff, something in you picks up and your natural instinct to be able to help them. So therefore, they see you do that enough. Cats are very intelligent, right? They're very smart. And so since they basically what? You said that's the excuse you need, right? So they're very intelligent. And so basically they see that you interact with them, that you give them food, that you do this, that you'll pet them, that you'll scratch them, that you do this, that you do that. Even the purring that they do. People don't even know when a cat purrs, the frequency of it actually is healing, not just for the cat, but even for you. Right? Oxytocin is going back and forth, things like that. But the cat realizes like, hey, if I need something and I meow, if I want attention, I meow. Right? Yeah, that's the same thing as like when a baby cries. So if I want attention, the cat says meow. The cat in its nature will not meow. In its nature is not designed to do that, right? But it knows, but because it's outside of its nature, it does something that it will not really do. Now, think about what your meows might be on your level, right? Think about what are some things that you do to get attention that you wouldn't normally do in your civilization, in your culture, because who you are, there's certain things that it's already comprehended. You don't have to ask. You don't have to meow. You don't have to get somebody to scratch your back. Why do you need a feminist movement? To make sure that your sisters are protected? Or why do you need a feminist movement to make sure you're protected? You shouldn't need that. Come on, somebody. You hear what I'm saying? You shouldn't have to have that. Why do you have to have somebody tell you that you look great in their clothing? Yeah, cats don't really purr to other cats, do they? Now, they do to a certain extent, but only when they're really getting in certain activity. But what I'm saying is we want cats to purr like all the time. Cats don't purr all the time. That's not what they're created to do. I like somebody talked about yawning, even yawning, right? Have you noticed that when you get around other people, you yawn? If somebody yawns, you say it's contagious. The reason why it's contagious is because you have something in you that empathizes. So when somebody's tired, you go, oh, I want to show that I'm tired too, even if I'm not. You'd be like, why did I even yawn? Right? There's certain things that we pick up to try and fit inside of an environment. There's certain things that we pick up trying to be inside somebody else's environment. And we have to realize and recognize what's going on. And we have to be willing to say, should we keep this up? Is this how our environment works? Is this how our people work? And this is the missing ingredient. This is the part that really, if we were to be honest, people don't want to have a conversation about this, because this is the hardest part for a lot of us, is that we are doing things that have nothing to do with who we are. And when somebody comes and says with a loud voice and a strong voice and says, yeah, this is not who we are, this is not who I am, this is not who my people are, this is not who my child is, I will not participate in this, everybody has a problem with it. So before you go, I want you to read the scripture for us, okay? And just do your best, all right?
Okay.
I know I just did this as a surprise. I didn't ask you about this, but I want you to read the scripture for me, okay?
Okay.
We're going to go. Give me a second to make sure I got the right one. A child shall lead us. Amen. We're going to go to 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. And some of these words are big words, so I'm going to help you, okay?
Okay.
You all right? I know I gave you a surprise assignment. You weren't ready for it. You got to be ready if you're going to get up. I told you eventually you're going to have to start teaching some a little bit. You got years and years and years before you got to teach, but you got to get ready for some of this stuff, right? Okay. And where is this at? So I can see if we can put this on your channel later. 156. Okay, 1 hour, 56 minutes. Okay. We're going to go to 1 Peter chapter 2 in verse 9. We're going to listen to young Solomon read. You can wait for a second. 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9. 1 Peter chapter 2 in verse 9, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, hold on. So everybody's got it. When you guys have it, you can say amen. Say we're with you. This and that. You wait up there. You wait till you see, wait up there till you see people saying, I'm with you. Or we got it. When somebody says, I'm with you, when you start saying, I'm with you, or amen, or something. Okay, somebody, you see it, they say, got it, with you, amen. All right. Sister Shima helped you out. She put up the scripture for you so people know which one you're going to. All right, so what's the name of the scripture again? 1 Peter?
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 9.
Okay, go ahead. I'm going to help you out. I know this is big words. All right, let's go ahead.
But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a
peculiar. No, don't guess. A peculiar. Mm-hmm.
People that ye
should
show.
I'm sorry. Fourth,
the praise of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Amen. I'm going to read it one more time. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Thank you so much, sir. Appreciate you. Give me 5. Give me real 5. Give me real 5, sir. All right. Excellent. Thank you. Go ahead. Thank you so much. Right. So a royal priesthood, chosen generation, peculiar people, holy nation, that you might show forth the praises. People are saying great work on there. If you want to look on there, people are saying great work to you. So that you might show forth the praises, right? That you might show forth the praises, not randomly, but you are this. So question, if you are a chosen generation, what is your generation chosen to do? If you are a chosen generation, what is your generation chosen to do? If you are a chosen generation, what's your generation chosen to do? Remember, if I've been in the zoo my whole life, I don't know what I'm chosen to do. See, because in the zoo, all I'm supposed to do is just be fed, be around, make money, produce other animals. Right? Remember we talked before, there's a difference between sex and breeding. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. Most people breed. Or if you go through the breeding exercise, it's really interesting. A lot of people want to breed and have no children. I'm not saying everybody's called to have children. You hear what I'm saying? A lot of people out here breeding, get pregnant, pay for the abortion, have the abortion. But see, in the zoo, so what does a chosen generation look like if you've never seen what chosen is? Help the homeless, do things like that. Yeah. Come out of captivity and seek Yahweh. Walk in his ways. Right? Chosen to lead, right? So how do you lead? How do you lead an environment? What do kings look like in your environment? How do kings dress in your environment? I'm not speaking bad on anybody. I'm just asking, in your culture, how do kings dress? How do kings move? How do kings walk? What holy days do kings and queens operate in? How do queens wear their hair in your culture? I'm not saying you got to get rid of your hairstyle. Hear what I'm saying? I'm just asking, how do they even do that? How does marriage work for a king or queen? Right? Just like an animal. See, if you lived in captivity your whole life, you'll think that captivity is there. But see, every animal, once again, every animal has in them this, in the zoo, that there should be more to this. How you gonna clip my wings and have me be a bird in a zoo? And everything in me knows I'm supposed to fly. The vulture knows. You can give me the little fake version of an animal that's alive and all this stuff, but the vulture knows not just that it's supposed to clean up things, but the vulture has something instinctive in them that says, hey, I'm supposed to fly for miles and miles and miles. And I have the vision to be able to see down to places that even on the level of eagles do. And I have the ability to be able to fight against big cats and things trying to come for their own kill and stuff. I'm strong, I'm tall, I'm huge. I'm supposed to be something that's scary to others. But here I am trapped in a cage. There's a very interesting place. We might have to do a couple lives and a couple YouTube videos, a couple, things like that. We'll go just do a walk through the zoo one day and see the difference. And part of it is because, once again, like the book of Psalms says in the Song of Degrees, the fourth step of the Song of Degrees, Psalm 123, verse 4, it tells you that certain people are at ease with your scorn. It tells you straight up that there are people that are at ease. They feel more at ease when you're scorned, when you're not who you're supposed to be. The step before it, the third step in the Song of Degrees, it's the third degree, if you will, Psalm 122. It tells you Israel is supposed to come together as a compact nation. Once again, what does that look like? Have we ever seen Israel come together? Praise God, we had 50-something people on at our biggest height last night. We probably had like 60, 65 people total on, the whole time. But as far as people who were on at the same time, probably hit about 50-something people. We praise y'all for the word that was given to Minister Tamara. These are things, these are pictures, these are snapshots of what it looks like when we come together. Doesn't it make you feel great? And by the way, when we came together, just because it said one person was on, it might have said one person on, but there could have been 5 people on the family. There's one group that I saw was 12, 13 strong. Thank you for the love. Appreciate how you doing, Mr. Augie. There's another, I know that there was groups of people that were represented on there. So we could have had, even though it said 50-something people, we could have had easily, well, I know easily, we probably had 100 plus. Right? But what does it look like when we come together? It's a different thing. And so also too, it's scary for the oppressor, for the world to see us to stop being animals and to be a people, to be a nation, or to be people that are in their civilization and start saying that what you're doing is wild. Right? It's scary to them because it's been a long time coming since your diaspora showed up the way that it did. Oh, you okay, Sister Monica? I know you tried to call the other day. I couldn't get back in contact with you. It's been a long time coming. They haven't seen us do this, right? We haven't seen us do this. We haven't seen real queens. We haven't seen real kings. We haven't seen real royalty. We have not seen princesses and princes, and we haven't seen it. We haven't seen people who are making sure that they're marrying believers and are already qualified as husbands and are already qualified as wives. We haven't seen that. We have not seen it. We have not seen people who are not trying to rake people over the coals, who don't preach a message hoping that you'll make sure that you pay a bigger paycheck. We haven't seen it. We haven't seen it. It's been a long time coming. Thank you for the love. And how you doing, Tish? Right? It's been a long time coming. And these are the things that have been talked about. The hearts of the fathers have to return to the children. The hearts of the children have to return to the fathers. Malachi chapter 4, verse 6. These are the things that have been talked about, where we're going to stop being ignorant and we're going to repent and turn from our wicked ways. And we're going to stop dying due to ignorance or from the fact that we won't know him. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. Right? It's about to change. The paradigm's about to shift. Yes, the shift of the atmosphere. Amen. But the paradigm must shift. And now that it's shifting away from Eurocentric ideals, now it's shifting away from, hey, we can't do this. Now it's shifting away from, look, this is the blessing. It's a blessing and a curse. Don't get caught up with what we were talking about earlier with Terminator or with the Matrix. So if you're not careful, you're going to go ahead and let AI use you, right? You must start using these things because the devil is the prince of the air, but he ain't the king of nothing. So yeah, he's the prince of the air, and he might be showing our brothers and sisters doing some wild stuff out there and doing some stuff that's detrimental to society. But we can also come on here and we can make sure that what the king has is prevalent and relevant in everything. Oh, amen, Sister Tracy. Praise God. Right, and we got to get back to our identity. What do you identify as? A lion has an identity. You know a lion when it walks in the room. There's no debate on whether that's a lion. You hear what I'm saying? If a lion was to step into your house right now, there's no debate who's in charge. You hear what I'm saying? I don't care if it's a lion from the zoo. Let a lion walk up in your house right now. Some of y'all, it could be a lion cub that can't even see yet, and y'all would be running all around the place. There's a difference. When you know who you are, right? There's a difference. Matter of fact, when you know who you are, you don't need to use somebody else. See, watch this. A lot of y'all are used to movies, magic, and television shows and all that stuff where they tell you a vision and they get you something that's always fake and something away from yourself. A lot of y'all think that lions sound like something different than what they are. Now, lions have an amazing roar, but what you're used to hearing on television, especially what is it called, the Metro Goldwyn or whatever that used to be, the lion that would always roar, right? Used to be a black and white first and then started being put in color, right? That lion, that was not a lion's roar. That's a tiger's roar. Did you know that? MGM, thank you. Yeah. Did you know that? That's not even a lion's roar. That's a tiger's roar. Somebody liked the tiger's roar so much they said, let's give him the tiger's roar and we'll make him think it's a lion. Thundercat was a lion, right? You hear what I'm saying? Like, you're so used to seeing stuff change that when a lion walks in, you might not even recognize it. But sure enough, you should recognize a lion. And even if you think, hey, well, you don't roar like a lion, the lion gonna let you know I'm a lion at some point. You're gonna realize. You hear what I'm saying? Like, a lion's gonna realize it's a lion. At some point, the lion's gonna let you know. You're not dealing with just anything. You're dealing with a lion. You see the paw of a lion, big as the size of your head, it will knock you out easily, right? Lions don't have time for all that stuff. Lions don't do the whole thing as far as they're gonna do, right? Lions, they go for the jugular. The reason they go for the jugular is not to get you to bleed out. They want you to stop breathing. They're used to going against prey, right? Like they're used to going against prey to where when they grab by the neck, the prey is bigger and stronger than the lion. See, the difference between you and the lion, we're going to talk about the lion more tomorrow, right? But I'm just going to give y'all, we'll give some heads up and stuff that some of the stuff we're going to talk about. See, the lion, when the lion sees, hear what I'm saying. When the lion sees the wildebeest is bigger than the lion. Now, you don't want to mess with a bunch of wildebeest together, right? If you ever knew that you can come together, you can mess up anything, right? This is annoying. This might hurt some, right? But this will knock you out. You'll come together, right? But the lion and the wildebeest is bigger and stronger than the lion, believe it or not. Not necessarily faster and as athletic, but it is bigger and stronger and can kill a lion really easily. Lions don't necessarily want to go for wildebeest first because they know that some damage can be done. But you know something that the lion has over the wildebeest? That sometimes we don't even realize that we don't have within ourselves, or that we don't carry within ourselves. The one thing that the lion has over the wildebeest, though, real talk. Say whatever you will about that lion. But you know something that lion has over that wildebeest that you don't think about? Well, courage can be one. Watch this. That lion looks at the wildebeest as prey, and it looks at itself as the hunter. And the wildebeest, although it is stronger, thinks about the lion as the hunter, and it thinks about itself as prey. Oh, yeah. The mindset goes a long way. The mindset goes a long way. If your whole life you have identified as prey, chosen generation, royal priesthood, but where's your priest? Where's your royalty? What are you chosen to be? I've never seen the royal priesthood. Peculiar people, but you look the same as everybody else. You dress the same. I've said this before. If I were to go to the mall and I were to see all these sisters walking down the mall, and the brothers too, for real, but you know, I don't really look at the brothers and I don't really look at sisters nowadays anyways, but you know, it is what it is. I'm just trying to give you all the context. If I were to look and try to figure out from behind who was who by what you were wearing, I would discover that pretty much all of y'all wear the same thing now. So what makes you chosen? What makes you come out from anybody else? I mean, you do what everybody else does. You're afraid to stand out on your own. The lion is what it is. It can't help it. And even if something's supposedly stronger than it, come on, David, come on, Goliath. Even if something's supposedly stronger than it, come on, son, come on, Joshua. Even if something's supposedly stronger than it and can't be controlled, it has some mindset. Come on, Joshua, and the whole and the general of the host of the army of the Lord, right? Even if something's stronger than it, it has it in it. It must try to figure out. It must hunt. It must figure out how to be more than a conqueror. That's why you have to be more than victorious, more than an overcomer, more than a conqueror. Stop talking about I want to be a conqueror. You don't need to be a conqueror. You need to be more than that. Conquerors are here. More than is more than. The lion, not saying the lion isn't aware that it can't be killed, that it can be killed. The lion is aware it can be killed. But you get a lion hungry enough, even though one giraffe could kill anything. But you get a lion hungry enough, it'll take on a giraffe by itself. See, that's another thing. It's not just, that's what I was really trying to get to in the second part of it. We're gonna go over the lion tomorrow. But see, something that you got to recognize, you got to think about is when it comes to the lion is hungry. Right? The lion has to eat. The lion has to eat in order to rest. It can't really rest right until it eats right. Once the lion eats correctly, man, shoot, it'll let that stuff digest. It'll sleep for 20 hours. You can't be in your rest until you ate right. Some of y'all are restless at night because you don't eat right. You know what I'm saying? Like you're not even eating stuff that's designed for you. You're not even eating enough. You're not even willing to hunt. See, the lion has to hunt because if he doesn't hunt, not only does he die, but his pride dies. And you know the female lioness will usually hunt more, right? But guess why the male lion, even if he doesn't help, because male lions do help on hunts, occasionally from time to time. But even if he doesn't help on the hunt, why does he always get to eat first? See, you think it's because he's the biggest and strongest. No, because he has to be willing to lay down his life for the pride. You see? So he has a right to eat first if he's willing to lay down his life. Brothers want to eat first, but they ain't laying down no life. Hey, how you doing, babe? My wife is on The Honorable Mind. Please check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D. The letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist behind Unspoken. Be right back. Give me my 10 seconds. You hear what I'm saying? Beloved, Yehovah, Judah, right? The lioness doesn't mind taking care of the cubs and making sure that the food is ready to go because the lion is willing to lay down his life. He's willing to lay down his life. It's not some random occurrence. It's not just because he's the male. You think that just because you're the man, you're supposed to. You know what I'm saying? But once again, we haven't seen this. Right? How can you become what you've never seen? I'm here to tell you, as much as everybody keeps telling you they're self-made this and self-made that and self-made this, you are nothing more than experiences and people you've been around. And you're not going to be able to take on anything that you haven't seen. Man, you know what? She treats people like this. She's just a special kind of angry. Nobody been as angry as her. I bet you if you look at her life, she's seen some things that have caused her to become who she is. Are you strong enough, lion, warrior, husband, son, to love her out of that? It's our pleasure, Quentin. Thanks for being on. Right? Like, are you willing to be something that she's never seen? How do you become something you've never seen? How you doing, Jeremy? How do you become that which you've never seen? We got to become something better. Okay, somebody's got to start exhibiting this behavior. Like somebody got to start showing people this behavior. Somebody has to start saying it's okay to be a king. It's okay to protect your queen. It's okay to show love. It's okay to show joy. It's okay to be something that's necessary and mandatory. It is. It's fine. We need. Matter of fact, it's needed. It's overdue. If somebody doesn't do it now, when is it going to be done? Like we have to start thinking in these terms like this. And under no uncertain terms should we turn back from this. We haven't seen people who love in spite of. We haven't seen people who say it's okay to have love that's unconditional because all love has conditions. You show me the marriage that hasn't had conditions or that has no conditions, and I'll show you a marriage that's going to fail. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. I'm just telling you truth. I'm telling you facts. I'm giving you facts. You show me the marriage that has no conditions, right? And I'll show you Will and Jada. You show me the marriage that has no conditions. I'll show you Brad and Angelina. You show me the marriage that has no conditions. I'll show you the marriage where you can hit me this day. I'll hit you that day. There's no conditions on it. See, we've seen everything else, but see, that's the unseen is our culture. In your culture, why is it that you say with your husband or your wife, Well, because you've been trained on what it is to be a husband or wife since birth. So by the time you get to an age to where it's time for you to get a husband or wife, you've been qualified for so long that it's pretty easy to become that which you've seen your whole life and been trained to be. How you doing, JC Romans? It's pretty easy to exhibit that. I'm here to tell you, your children are going to become what you've shown them. Not what you told them. They're going to become what you've shown them. You might not like my saying it, it's the truth. Your children are going to become what they've seen, what they've heard. And I'm here to encourage. I'm not here to demean. I'm here to encourage you today. I know that there are some that are like, my children, they weren't raised in this. And I know there's something I'm coming to, and I don't want to force it on them and this and that. I get you. I see what you're saying. I see you. I do. Right? I'm not here to come against you, but I'm here to tell you, you better start making sure that at some point they start seeing that they start having to enact this stuff. As for me and my house, I forget who brought this up, but this is Joshua 24, right? Somebody brought this up recently. I don't remember if it was early rising Bible study session, 7 last words, if it was a Wednesday rising. So I'm not sure which one it was. But look, you got to see it. That's a declaration. As for me and my house, that's not just saying because you live under my roof, you have to do whatever I tell you to do. That's also saying, look, I will be the person to exhibit at all times in my house this culture. As for me and my house, there will not be a time that you don't see inside of my house. This is what goes down. This is how we operate. This is how we move. We will serve the Lord. That will means what? As a result of my will. See, in the unseen is that we haven't had people that have that free will. By free will, do you serve the Lord? Because he's not forcing anybody on here. As a result of your free will, have you decided? See, it's more powerful when it's your free will. He could have just gone ahead and said, do whatever. He could have just made a matrix. He could have just plugged you in. Somebody else did that. The beast did. And now that you're into the beast, you start to buck against the beast because you realize you should have never been going for that in the first place. Excuse me. But when you decide to do it of your free will, well, that means a whole lot more. Right? This is why I say after I finish all these, please go back and study and research and make sure that what I'm saying is true. Don't just go for it because, you like the stuff that's being said, or maybe you have some kind of, thought process towards myself or my wife or my son, or, us putting our life on display for you guys to a certain degree and being able to show you, then please study this stuff, because once it hits you, and once you realize I got to do this because my children need to see me do this, and you realize that I've got to do this because this is how truth works, and you do this because you say, hey, this is what's going to cause culture to come upon the earth, and you say this is going to cause my community to change, and therefore it becomes something that is for you. You're going to do this no matter what. But see, if it's not seen, then you're going to continue in animalistic behavior. Now, we are going to be using behaviors of animals in this series to be able to show some things that maybe we're not aware of. But I need you to recognize this world is trying to create a system in which you are a pet, and which you are not doing things that are in your nature. It is not in your nature to have, and this is where things are headed, by the way, right? This is not something I'm talking about it's only futuristic. This stuff you're living in. Some of you are living in a place where you don't have to leave your house for anything. I'm talking about your school is in your house, and I believe in homeschooling, but just hear what I'm saying. Your school is in your house. You can go downstairs from the condo to the apartments or whatever and go get all your shopping needs. Anything that you can't find there, you just have somebody deliver it. You don't do anything. You don't learn cursive or anything. You just learn whatever's on the computer. You make sure that everything is in your apartment. You are nomadic to the point to where I'm not nomadic, excuse me. You are a hermit to the point to where nothing is going on. I'm here to tell you that that's how pets operate. That's what they do with gerbils. Thank you for the love, right? All I got to do is give you a wheel to spin on and make sure that there's some water and there's some chips and make sure that I clean up behind you. And hey, you don't need to worry about anything, do you? But when you're in a position where you don't have to worry about anything to make sure it comes from you or comes from your people, then you're in a position to where, because you don't worry about anything, you don't worry about anything. Right? Like, we're in a position to where somebody has taken so much stuff from you that you're so used to not having direction over something, not used to being accountable for something. Yep, you can talk about Disney, Wall-E, another technical reference, but still showing you about animalistic behavior. By the way, interestingly enough, Wall-E's pet was a roach, because roaches were supposed to be able to survive anything. Wall-E rolled over, did all this, tried to love, but still couldn't love it. You can't really love a roach. A roach not really made to be loved, have a relationship. But hey, you'll think of that as cute. It's cute to have a roach. It's cute to do. I'm just, and it's weird. I know it's weird. You hearing it? I'm just trying to see. They have to see. Watch this. By law, right? Even the devil, he has to show you the truth, even if he's going to make you live a lie. Every lie is based off the truth. He got to show you the truth. Sometimes, look, I don't watch movies the way I used to, but sometimes I still watch a lot of movies because I still want to see some of the truth. They showed you. There's a movie coming out now, kind of like whatever the other one was called, Elysium or something like that back in the day. I think it was Matt Damon who played that character or something, but now they got a new movie coming out where the earth is messed up and what are we going to do if we've already gone to Mars? Like, they're telling you stuff. They're showing you how it's going to operate. They're not lying to you. They're not lying to you at all. They're telling you the truth. They're telling you how this stuff is going to work. They're not lying to you at all, but you got to see it and see. Watch this. Even when you see the unseen in your culture, see, this is the great thing about our culture as well, is that the Most High has set things up to where he's already shown us the end from the beginning. He's showing us the blueprint. He has it to where even watch this, even if you're not, as Minister Naeem or Minister Joseph is, even if you're not a prophet or prophetess, I would call both prophets, but I know some people want to make sure that the sister gets the respect in that way, even though some sisters would not want to be called prophetess or whatever. So, all right, but hear what I'm saying. Well, even if that's not your gift, the enemy still has to tell you the truth. Now, you can believe in the truth or not, but he still has to show you the truth. He still has to bow down the truth. And I'm just trying to show you, right? Like, they have to show you commercials. They're telling you that, hey, we're about to start doing the Matrix thing. All these babies are going to be born in fake containers, and you can just look at the baby in the container, or you can have it in your house if you can afford it, or if you want, we'll take care of it in the warehouse, all this stuff. If a baby ends up dying or something, we'll just take that baby and we'll feed it to other babies intravenously. Like, they're telling you, or not intravenously, but through the belly button rather. They're telling you all these things are going to happen, and they're showing it to you. They have to, by law. Not just by man's law, but man's law is always superseded by kingdom law. So there's not one thing that's about to happen to you, Yashta, that the devil doesn't have to show you. And this is the blessing. Yeah, yep. Right, this is the blessing. This is the blessing, is that there's not one thing coming up that has not already been shown. There's not one thing that's about to happen that has not already been shown. Does Lord mean Baal? Lord means Baal to certain cultures, right? Lord for us would be Adam, but even people who worship Baal or Baal, who were Canaanite, you have to ask yourself, when were they calling them that, right? Or when were they worshiping Baal? Because Baal, like Melchizedek, he would have called Adam, or who people call Lord, he would have called him Baal as well, but he believed that Baal was Yahweh. And Yehoshua is out of the order of Melchizedek because Melchizedek was given the tithe by Abraham. Abraham was paying the tithe on where his children would eventually rest, right? So it depends on culture. But nevertheless, there's not one thing they're going to show you. There's not one thing that's going to happen to you that has not been shown, that has not been prophesied, that has not been taught, that has not been talked about. People have been telling you for the longest time, be careful about this fiat cash. Make sure that you get some kind of crypto. You said, I don't need crypto, even though you don't realize when you go in your wallet and you pull out a card and that card has, money and stuff on it. Guess what that is? That's crypto. The crypto was designed not for you to make a bunch of money off. It was designed for you to have decentralized currency. And here we go now. The Federal Reserve, 2023, this year, they've started already saying all the banks are going to work together to make sure that eventually you're going to change from the fiat cash is already losing its value to now starting to use Federal Reserve crypto. Right. And people thought that we were crazy to tell you something. People lost their mind when we were saying, gather yourself, gird yourselves, be prepared for this. How dare you say that? You don't know what you're talking about. You're just trying to get people, you're trying to finesse people, this and that. I never said everybody go under the crypto that I'm under. I never said, hey, SOC, let's come together. We could have, but I didn't even want people to get dismissed by that, dismayed by that. So I didn't say that. I just said, get something. I don't care if it's a lot or a little, get something, because there's going to come a time that you're going to wish that you could control your own money. You've never really done it anyways, but definitely you're going to want to be able to do it. Why do we say that? Because there's not one thing that the devil's going to do that he has, that he cannot, he doesn't have to first show you. Yeah, we're working on homesteading within our own community. Thank you so much, Ryan. How you doing? Right. So you're going to have to be in a position to where you recognize what's going on. This is why we say homeschool. And we're going to get this started. I know we've been talking about it. Like, y'all who are homeschooling, y'all going to have to figure out how to get your children on the schedule. I'm going to give you a date. I'm going to give you a date soon, right? We're going to work with Hebrew characters. My wife's going to work on doing some other stuff. We're going to try to give you some languages, some French, some math, things of that nature, whatever. If we have children on from different ages, we'll make sure that we teach it in different ages, whatever we got to do. But we got to make sure this stuff is on and popping, right? That means also, too, y'all got to be on and popping, too, right? But I'm just telling you, like, this stuff, we have to start getting this in place, because it's not just about you. It's about the next generation coming up. And nobody told us to invest. So that's why you don't invest. Your children are just going to do what you do, and they're going to take it to the next level, right? So I'm just letting y'all know ahead of time. Homeschooling is coming. It's done. We've been talking about it for a long time, and we've been waiting, and then people said they're going to help, and then they didn't help, blah, blah. And so, and not to call anybody out, we're not giving any names. We just say it is what it is. But at this point, it will happen, right? Pastor Kofi not going to go to a place where we're doing so much that we're not going to be able to take care of ourselves, and we're going to be sick or anything again. But this must happen. This must take place. Right? Your children need to be able to hear the same stuff. Some of you guys let your children listen to this, praise God. But your children need to be able to get something on their level like this too. And they need to have somebody who loves them like this too. And they need to have somebody who's there to help them in ways that maybe you can't. Just like our son, if there's certain things he can't do in his homeschooling, guess what we got to do? We got to bring somebody else in to help. Right? Yes, I don't comprehend the question. Elohim is coming like a thief in the night. I don't comprehend the question. What was it that you'd like to talk about with that? Or how do you give? Well, praise God. If you'd like to give, we can. Well, basically, if you look on TikTok, on our main TikTok page, click on the link tree, and then you can find ways to get in contact with us or connect with us, etc. Or if you'd like to just straight up give, we appreciate that as well. Thank you for even considering that. Right. But this is, you see what we're saying. We gotta talk about these things. Well, the thief in the night, basically just talking about how thieves are not. You must be prepared to secure yourselves. That's the main thing about the thief in the night, right? Like, yeah, in a moment, in a blink, twinkling of an eye, sure, but you got to be prepared, right? If there's thieves everywhere you go. And what's going on is, once again, we're not prepared for it. What's this? What is a wife's, not a girl, not a boo, not your date, and even with them, for real, right? But what is a wife's number one need? 99% of the time, her number one, number two need are going to be pretty much the same thing, or they go together. But what's a wife's number one need out of the 6 basic human needs? What is a wife's number one need going to be? Security, protection. Her number two need is going to be what? Affection, right? So if something comes like a thief in the night and your wife's not secure, guess what she's going to do? She's going to flip out. And y'all be like, why is she flipping out? Because she's not secure, right? Is there a plan in place when this happens? Like, she'll stay with you if all of a sudden you lose your job, but we didn't have no vision. Like, what is the vision that's bigger than the job? I'm not secure. So the vision secures, and you think it's the finances. Right? Can she trust you? See, watch this. She can forgive you all day. Forgiveness is not the issue. Does she trust you? And sisters have to allow you to build up trust. Y'all need to come up with a plan that y'all can go walk through something that builds up trust. But security is the number one need. So when she says, I don't trust you, she's just saying, I don't feel secure. And when even if she feels secure, if she doesn't get affection, it's only a matter of time to where the security don't mean anything anyways. But you put security and affection together, right? But that's what? That's trust. That's what? That's making sure she's secure. That's what? That's making sure that if something comes like a thief in the night, there's some kind of security measure in place. Do you know how many people have tried to do things to mess up my life, to mess up my wife's life, to mess up SOC, to mess up Solomon's life? How many family members, how many people who are supposed friends have tried to do things? But because we have things in place, we are secure. So when thieves try to come by in the middle of the night or under the covering of something, right? And by the way, nighttime for us is different. When the sun goes down, that's the beginning of our day. So when we're just starting to begin and go to another level, and before we can even see it coming to light, there's already somebody trying to steal from us. We have certain things that are in place already that no matter what happens, the main thing is always the main thing. Right? So look, certain things, like watch this, security, speak security to it. You fighting with your spouse, you're doing this, you fighting this and that, you fighting this person, you fighting that person. Look, are we going to be together till death do us part? We are. How you doing, Iska? We're going to be together till death do us part? Okay, at the end of the day, then what do we need to do? Because I ain't going nowhere for the rest of my life and you ain't going nowhere. That's security. You see what I'm saying? Speak security into it. But we haven't seen this. And so is the unseen. We don't have enough money right now, this and that or whatever. Well, what was the vision anyways? The vision is to establish this business, to have this type of land, to make sure our children are doing this, and to make sure that we're going to be together. So what do we have in place? What have we been investing in? What other procedures do we have? What other places do we have in effect? So when the main source of income is gone, we haven't put all our eggs in one basket. That's security, right? If you're going to be homeless, least you can do is make sure you're homeless and you start off with $10 in your pocket. Ain't nothing worse if you're about to be homeless and you ain't got 2 pennies to rub together. Ain't nothing worse than that. You know what I'm saying? Like at least, hey, did we invest? Yeah, I only put like 200 in this, and I only put like 500 in this coin, and I only put like 300 in there. Okay, well we can rock with that. If we can figure this out, you get paid in 2 weeks, I get paid in 2 weeks. Okay, we got kicked out, but you know that should be enough. Even if we got to deal with the dirtiest and sleaziest motels, we can do a motel for a couple of weeks, and we can make sure even if we got to forage, and if we got to be eating off grass and berries and stuff that's not even ripened yet, we can at least do that because there's a vision in place, there's security in place. So when you talk about the thief in the night, but once again, who are you? Who are you, Yashua? Who are you? How you doing, Discipline of Radiance? Who are you? Who are your people? Who is it that you've seen do this? See, once again, for many of us, this is what? This is unseen. And those things that are unseen have begun to become the thing, it began and really still are the things that we have basically allowed to continue to remain in place. We haven't seen it. So we made the assumption that what we haven't seen is impossible. But we speak over your life the same thing that the Messiah has taught us, that through man, these things are impossible, but through Elohim, all things are possible. How many things that are all things are all? How many things does all things include? See, now this is a tricky question. It's a trick question. It's a trick question. How many things are all? Everything that is within Elohim's culture. Because through man's culture, certain things shouldn't be possible. Ooh, let that bless you. Don't let that go over your head too fast. through man's culture, there are certain things that shouldn't be possible. Which means that through Elohim, there are also certain things. So when he says all things are possible, it's all things that are righteous. Somebody got it. Somebody got it before me. Yeah. See, not everything. See, Paul says all things are permissible. You can do whatever you want. You got free will. All things are permissible, but some things just ain't righteous. I don't need you for nothing. Yeah, you're right. You don't need me for nothing. Except for you can't have a husband without him having a chance to secure you. So is he allowed to secure you, sister? I mean, you can say whatever you want at him, but at the end of the day, if he gonna be your husband, he's got to have a place. So it's permissible to tell him that he ain't got no place in your life, but it's not lawful. And if he's not worthy of you being obedient to law, first of all, if everything should always have you be obedient to law, but if he's not worthy of you being obedient to law, then he should have never been your husband in the first place. And you were not ready to be a wife in the first place because you weren't trained to do this. You were not trained to be a doormat, but you are supposed to be in training to be a wife. See, but we have animalistic behavior. Yes, the lioness fights against her own lion if necessary, right? But the lioness also says, hey, if you're going to protect me, there's certain things that you get to do, even if it's annoying. There's just certain things you get to do. Why? Because you are a lion, and watch this, you're not just any lion, but you're the lion over this pride. Remember, the Bible does not say in Ephesians 5:22, wives, be submissive to any husband or be submissive to any man. It's not even submission, it's submission, right? You're not submitted to a man, you're submitted to a mission. A man without a mission is a dangerous man. We talked about that before, right? So be careful in all these things you're doing. But at the same time, if he's doing what he's supposed to do, it doesn't say submit to every husband. It says submit yourself to your own husband. If you decided to be under this husband and you say it's Yah that led you, or that, hey, when I prayed about it and I thought about it and I brought it to my family and everything, and we came up with this and we realized that this is in fact the husband that is for me, and I'm going to be obedient to him as long as he is, or not obedient to him, but obedient to the mission that comes out of his mouth and instruction. This is Proverbs 1:8. The father gives instruction, the mother lays down the law. So I will continuously lay down law that protects his instruction, that he himself will have to listen to the law because it's his instruction. Why? Because his instruction is nothing more than him setting down the law for the Most High. If he's doing that, then that's when you're in submission. But animalistic behavior has you believing that you are a pet. See, that's what a lioness would do in her civilization. They would call that the wild, but for her, that would be her civilization. See, in this new civilization, you are a pet. And if you want pets to act right, you make sure that the female eats out of the palm of the hand of the master. Check out Willie Lynch letter. We'll have to do a whole thing just on the Willie Lynch process to do one of this animalistic behavior. Tomorrow we'll talk about the lion, but pretty soon we're going to have to do a whole session just on the Willie Lynch letter, because you don't realize the Willie Lynch letter keeps talking about you as being broken down like horses. And it says that you take horses and you put them together with donkeys, jackasses, and you take those horses and jackasses and you create something called a mule. Mules cannot give life anymore. Mules are only designed for one thing, to be used up, and you have become a people that have no life. It's time to come out of that. How you doing, the way she blossomed? It's time to come out of that. So Passover was yesterday. This is the first day of us for 7 more days, Feast of Unleavened Bread. We are so thankful and grateful. We're excited. I'm appreciative of you guys being on. Let's get this together. Let's roll. Let's grow. Let's do exactly what Yahweh has called us to do. Now that Passover season is over, I'm going to be able to start opening back up. By the way, we have classes coming up, but don't forget that when we're coming out of this, we're going to stay out of this. We didn't take 40 days of removing leaven from our home to just get back to the same place that we took 40 days to come out of. We didn't just spend over a month going through the new year for us, Nisan, to be able to take 2 more weeks to get the Passover last night to just end up in the same spot. We didn't have the 7 last words pop up 7 days prior to this just to get to the 8th day, and now just give up on everything we did. We still got, all we ask you, can you start from this point on this week? You got 7 days unleavened bread. 7 days of keeping the sin that you removed out of your life, and see how it tastes. Remember what I told you, it's going to be difficult for those of you who did 48 days after we finish this whole season. Once we get past and we get to April 13th, it's going to be difficult for a lot of y'all. Be careful. Don't go straight back to 11, because when you haven't been around 11 for a long time and you try to put it back in your body, it's going to mess you up. Well, guess what? If you haven't been used to sinning for a long time, guess what is going to happen? It's going to be difficult to sin again when you try to eat of it. And that's the goal. That's what the reminder was. How you doing, Hustle Wrestle? That's what the goal is to become who you were always supposed to be. Tomorrow, I believe we're going to be talking about the lion. So I look forward to doing more conversation to that. But we're dealing with animalistic behavior. I'm not sure how long the series is going to go. I got a feeling it'll probably be about a couple of weeks. But we want to make sure that we're in position. And we want to make sure that we're not going back to the same things that we finally came out of. We finally came out of this. If we're not careful, we're going to go right back into it. Watch this. We came out of Christianity. So why is it that you got so many camps fighting over who's in charge, just like they do in Christianity? You look the same. Just because you call yourself something different doesn't mean you're not being an animal anymore. You're being a race anymore. No such thing as a race. You're not a race. You are a human. Humus man. Humus, rich, dark, nutrient, earth man with the spirit inside. And then the breath of life is breathed into you and you became a living soul. Your psychology should be of that who breathed into you. That's why it's called universal law. What is a universe? Again, uni, a verse, spoken sentence. A universe is a single spoken sentence. When he breathed into you, when he spoke into you, when he told you you're going to do great things, when he told you you were a wife, when he told you to be a husband, he gave you a psychology to go along with it. There's never a vision that Yahweh gives us that doesn't come with what? Provision. So any vision that he's given us, it has provision. That includes the vision attached to your soul, your psychology, your nachavash. He wouldn't have given you a vision without providing for that vision. He wouldn't have given you a vision without giving you the thoughts and the tools to use. You don't need, see, this is why evolution is dangerous. Because why do I need to evolve into that which I already am? Let that sit with you as we get ready to take our leave. Why should I evolve into what I already am? Why should I evolve into what I already am? Well, a dream is always a vision. A vision is not always a dream. You can have a vision whether you're asleep or not, or whether you're daydreaming or not, right? You can have it, but you have to, whenever you dream, you always have a vision. So technically they're one and the same, right? But I want you to ask yourself, I want you to think about that. Why do I need to evolve? This is part of the Western society. Why should I evolve when I already am? And thank you, Salah. We have a bad mindset. You've been taught to evolve into a cheerful giver. But in eternity, you are a cheerful giver. You know why it feels so great to give? You know why it feels so great to give? Because that's who you are. Come on, right? You know why it feels so great to use your gift? Because it's already who you are. You don't have to pay somebody to tell you what your gift is. And if you're going to give someone to somebody who tells you what your gift is, the bare minimum, right? They should teach you to be you and to tell you how to focus on it and to make sure that you can tie that. Why do you like giving? Why is it that your gift is something that you will give to people for free? Why is that thing that nobody cares about, but you would do it for free? Why is it like when you were homeless on the street, you still did that thing? It's because that's who you are. You're going to be that no matter who you are or where you are, because who you are is more relevant than where you are. So it doesn't matter where I am in life. Amen. Amen. Right? So it doesn't matter where I am in life. It matters who I am in life. And when I found out who I was is more important than where I am. I preach this I preached the same way. I preached the same word. I believed in the same thing. I operated in the same gifting and calling when people thought that I was too broke to listen to, because they listened to me when they thought I was great. But then all of a sudden, when I had to ask somebody after the end of the speech, when I had to say, hey, can I use your phone? And they realized I was asking, can I use your phone because I don't have a phone? I can't afford one because I'm on the street. In their eyes, I stopped being great. See, but after a while, I started realizing, well, wait a minute. If I was great before I could afford the phone, then why am I greater now that I can afford it? See, in your mindset, you think that the phone is what makes you great. When nobody could see me on a live session, this was still a great word, right? Because it's not my word, it's something bigger than me. So why did I need to evolve? The phone is trying to catch up to me so that you can go ahead and get a great word. The laptop is trying to catch up to me. The MacBook, the Mac, the iPad, the notepad, the tablet, the whatever. It's trying to, the Android, it's trying to catch up to me. I don't need to wear somebody else's stuff or what somebody says is a new modern creation to go ahead and you can flex and pop your collar different and all that stuff. I don't need to do that because this is something that's me. And all they're trying to do is come back to something. They always got to come back to me no matter what. I pop myself, right? I pop this collar. I don't have to go to nobody else's reference point. This is who I am. And when somebody says unapologetically me, the word apologetics is talking about the defense of that which you believe. So I don't have to defend who I am because this is who I am. It's based off of a belief and a culture that existed before the foundations of the earth. How am I going to how are you going to out-argue what came before the earth, before the universe? Right? Before the universe was spoken into existence, I am. Before Abraham was, Yahushua says, I am. They said, well, you talk about Abraham, all this stuff. Well, Abraham's our father. Who's your father? He said, before Abraham was, I am. Right? Remember we were talking about Terminator at the beginning of this? Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and then you go to the Matrix, that's the story. This is how the story works. If you know, when you know that, that's the same author that wrote all three, and you realize that, this is how the story works. Terminator 1, the machines send back this machine to try and kill the mother of the one that's going to give birth, or the mother who's going to give birth to the Messiah of man, that's going to help man to make it through these rough times, right? So what happens? They send back this machine to kill him. Now, the son of the mother who will give birth, the son, the S-O-N, he knows this is going to happen in the future. So what does he do? He sends back somebody, Kyle Reese, and sends him back to go ahead and make sure he takes care of his mother, right? He already knows because he lives. See, you're thinking he doesn't know what's going on, but see, the son in the past, who also is the son of this present time we're getting sent back to, which is also the son of the past, living in past, present, and future, that son already knows that he needs to send somebody to take care of his mother, who will ultimately give birth to him, right? Even though technically he's sending himself. So when he said Kyle Reese, he really basically was doing nothing more than saying, hey, I can't go back and have sex with my own mother. I need to be here. I know who my father is. I'm going to send my father to make sure that he does something, right? She gets impregnated by this person, or even if you want to go Holy Spirit, they get sent back. And if you're on baby, it's 11:11. And thank you for that. Who gets sent back, and he gets sent back and impregnates the mother. They fight off the machine together. The machine, thinking that they got the victory, Revelation 12, do some research on Revelation 12, you'll see where this is all coming together, right? The machine says, okay, I'm going to go ahead and send back a higher model. While the machine sends back the higher model, guess what the son does now? The son, who has conquered the first machine, says, I'm going to send back another machine that looks the same as the one that tried to kill me. But the reality is what? Is that even though it looks the same as the one that tried to kill me, it's really what I put in it. I placed it in. right? I'm going to send back. I got my hands on this design, and I can take all those things that look like it was going to kill and try to come against the sun and make it now. It'll be my fiercest and most staunch advocate, right? So he sends back the one that was trying to kill him, that came out of the beast, but now works for him. Is not one of the people. It's not one of us, but he has been grafted in and will lay down his life for the son, because the son is sitting there fighting and willing to lay down his life in the future. It's a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, when you do the research, now you got to go back and watch Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and you got to watch The Matrix, right? Because Neo is the son, and the son is always present in all three of these movies, even if you don't see him in the first movie, right? So the son, who's in the future, says, I'm going to send back somebody to protect my mama, right? Ends up sending back somebody to protect the mama that really was doing nothing but just basically bringing him back to a place where he could be implanted in the mom so that he could survive and his mom would be protected. Then he sends back the very machine that tried to kill him, and now he has control over the machine. And he says, okay, now you will protect me and you'll protect my mom. The mom doesn't trust it, but the mom realizes that, hey, he'll be there, and then starts saying that this machine has become more like a father than anything that the son has ever seen. The thing that I thought couldn't be a father, the thing that I thought couldn't be trusted. Anyways, I'm going to all this different stuff. Let me just keep on moving. And so now you've got the machine who's taking care of the son and fights this new machine and dies for the son again. Or dies this time for the son rather than dies trying to kill the mother. So now he dies. The son is alive. Now, what we don't realize is that, because we go into Terminator, go some weird way after that because it's not the same author. What she had in mind was now what she wrote, which becomes The Matrix. When you go to Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and now you deal with The Matrix, who is Neo, who is the one is John Connors. JC, Jesus Christ, if you will, John Connors, JC, also Neo, N-E-O, or the one, O-N-E. And so he had fought his whole life to try and stay out of it, but somehow, some way, still got implanted. The machines somehow ultimately still were able to do this stuff, but because he had a sense of who he was, and there's something in him in his eternal self, he was still able to be able to say to himself, something's not right. Something's not right. And he kept waiting for somebody. Something's not right. And then he he gets a message from Morpheus, but something's still not right. And then he follows Trinity. Something's not right. And then he thinks he just had a dream and no, it can't be real. Something's not right. And eventually he finally realizes who he is. And at the end, he realizes that, yes, I am who I had been the whole time. I sent myself back. And even though the machines keep trying to change, they can't change this. Ultimately, at the end, and now that they change it up, but even if you want to go into the Matrix 3, not the fourth one, but the third one, even if you go into the Matrix 3, you'll see at the end of it that basically he has to allow the same way, right? The same way that he had to control the one who kind of came back to try and kill him. He allows the one, if you remember whatever the guy's name is, the guy that says Mr. Anderson, that guy, I don't know what his name is. He was Agent Smith, right? One of the agents. And he comes in at the end and he takes over Neo's body, right? And then all of a sudden, all of the Agent Smiths that have taken over the world, they explode. All of the machines now are letting the humans go and everything be okay, right? And by the way, here's one of the unkept secrets about it. They tell you the truth enough for you to be able to catch this stuff, right? Because even though this isn't her story, they still had to keep some semblances of her story in order to make this series work. Matrix 3, you remember that Neo, they pretty much, the machines have won. Neo shows up, tells the head machine that looks like a baby and all that, tells the head machine that, hey, let me go back in there or whatever. They come to an agreement. And all the machines, they're about to kill the humans. They're at Zion, right? It should be Mount Zion, but now we're living, underground, right? But they come for Zion. Y'all but peep game, they tell you the names of these places, who these people are, because that's who the woman, the Israelite woman, she wrote this stuff about you, right? But they come to Zion, they're about to win. It's over. right? It's really over. They've come to Zion. It's over. They're about to kill him. And then all of a sudden the machines stop. You remember that? You remember if you've seen them? If you haven't seen it, or if you want to look it up, look up on YouTube, look up YouTube, machines attack Zion scenes, and you'll be able to see some of them. There's this big, huge fight and everything. They're about to kill all the humans. It's done. It's over. And then they pause and they stop and they move back. And Jada's character, I forget her name in the movie, but Jada's character says, "Why did they stop?" And then Morpheus says, "It's Neo. He fights for us." Right? You said still not the truth, which is what he represent, the whole truth. Okay, Chia, I'm sorry. What is it that you need me to say? I'm not catching it. I apologize. What is it that would make it better articulated for you? Right? Obviously, it's a movie, but I'm sorry. I just want to make sure. I guess I don't know which direction to go. But anyway, so they're sitting there at the end, and so now Neo is doing what? He's fighting for you. And then he realized in the fight, he needed to just go ahead and let the same thing that he was trying to do, Mr. Agent Smith was, right? Which is try to come into you. He lets him come into him. And then therefore, that's when everybody's released from the bondage. Right? So that's what they're saying is literally the woman who wrote that movie, Terminator 1, Terminator 2, and The Matrix. She wrote it. She wrote those, not me, but she wrote those. And when she wrote those, that's what she said that the story is about. Same woman that won her lawsuit against the directors of the Matrix who made all this money and didn't give her any credit for anything. Hey, how you doing, Brother Ali? So these are the things that we have to realize and recognize. We have to see what's going on. And so when we go through this series, Animalistic Behavior, I just wanted to use this. I know that some people might think that's like too far extremes, animals and machines and stuff, but I want you to see that they're setting this thing up for you to live like an animal, right? They got little pellets that are going to be running out. They're going to say, that's all you need to eat for today. They're setting this thing up for you and I to live like animals. And if we're not careful, we're going to keep falling for the okie doke. They're going to keep patting you on your head. Great work that you did while they're taking your culture. They're going to keep saying, eat out the palm of our hands, Willie Lynch letter. They're going to keep going ahead and having you to the point to where you're feasting even spiritually on one another, right? Deuteronomy chapter 28, somewhere around verse 54, I believe, that the man who is not prepared, tender, is going to cause his wife to not be prepared, tender, and the children to not be prepared, tender. Or Soylent Green, which is a whole different thing, right? Whole different context we could get into. We'll leave that part alone for today, right? So I'm just trying to show you, I'm just trying to tell you that this thing is a lot deeper and a lot wilder and a lot bigger than what it is. And we want to make sure that we're at least aware of it. And we don't allow ourselves to operate outside of what the word of Yah has for us. So thank you all for being on today. We really appreciate you. If you'd like to contact us about anything, you can always just, if you're on YouTube, you can look at the description beneath. If you're on TikTok, you can go to our link tree on our main page, and that should be able to get you to the website where you can text us or email us, etc. Also, too, the class information and everything for classes starting next week. If you'd like to reach out to us about those, the information is there in the link in the description down at the bottom of YouTube. If you would like to be able to contact us about us, once again, you can, or you can just wait until the end of this, and we'll have all the information popping up for you to contact us, class information, all types of stuff, newsletter information, etc. The forum should be starting to go to everybody September 29th through October 6th. We're working on getting a new program together, hopefully by not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, because I can't DM everybody the way that we need to, because they think that we got so many of y'all now, it thinks that I'm trying to scam people. So we're working on getting some stuff together where you guys should be able to go to a certain app and be able to get more information from us and things of that nature, getting closer to YLP 83 stuff on and popping. Not just that, but also hopefully restarting some of our meetings with everybody who's been participating in YLP 83. So y'all can know exactly what's going on and where we are with that and what we're looking at in the counties and all that. We're getting closer and closer to being able, I don't think we're gonna be able to pay 100%, but at this point we're being led. We got to at least put down payment and just get it going. So we're going to have faith in the process and what Yah wants us to do and us being obedient to it. So you'll be finding more out about that. But if you're on TikTok, we're gonna do a shout out. If you don't know how the shout out works, just stick around for a few, and you'll be able to see what that looks like, so that you can be able to get more answers to questions, or if you want to be able to support or us support things you're doing, or us to participate. If you'd like us to speak at something, if when we're coming through town, you want us to do something, or you want to be part of a meetup, Zoom meetups that happen even whether I'm there or not. There are people all over the country, all over the world now, and we're trying to make sure those things come into being. So we thank you. How you doing, Sister Tasia? So we thank y'all for being on. We appreciate you. We look forward to continuing to move together and grow together. If you're with us once again on TikTok, just stick around for a little bit. We're going to get ready to do our shout out. And if you'd like to be able to get in contact with us and learn more information about things that we do outside of just the live sessions, things that we do in your neighborhood, things that we do in your neck of the woods, things of that nature, we'd love for you to just stick around for a little bit, and information to you ASAP. But to everybody, whether you're on YouTube or TikTok, whether you've been with us on Facebook today, whether you've been on the podcast, we appreciate your presence so very much. We thank you again. Thank you for the love and how you doing, Brother Aaron. And we look forward to talking to you guys again. And as always, please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, or website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. And we thank you so much for your support of what she's doing, her business, to make sure the diaspora is supported in their health, and that has become her business. Also, too, please don't forget that amongst many other tinctures and natural medicines that she has, the tincture of the month is stinging nettle. So if you'd like some, please make sure you contact us ASAP. Also, too, this is today, first Thursday of the month. So this Thursday, ministerial staff will try to make sure that we are this Thursday today. It's the first Thursday of the month. So ministerial staff, that includes the ministers in training as well. We want to make sure that we come together for our monthly meeting. Every first Thursday of the month, we have a meeting. Also, too, and that'll be at 6:30 p.m. Eastern New York time. Brother Brian or Sister Brianna, if y'all are on, we might have to move you guys up a little bit. I just realized that I think I double booked, kind of, sort of. I think we were supposed to be at 6 and the other one at 6:30. Also, too, Friday is the first Friday of the month. So every first Friday of the month, we ask you guys to go out into the community and be a blessing to somebody. So you don't have to tell us what that is, whatever that looks like, giving money to somebody, covering somebody with a blanket, giving a donation to somebody, whatever you decide to do, we ask that you go out and be a blessing to your community. And also this Saturday, this Saturday on Zoom, give me a second. This Saturday on Zoom, we'll be doing a meetup at 11 a.m. for those that are in Florida, a meetup at 12:30 p.m. for those that are in the Northeast region. And that's Eastern. So 11:30 a.m. Eastern for those in Florida. So those are in all of Florida. 12:30 p.m. Eastern or 11:30 a.m. Central for those in the Central North region. So that basically. Oh no! I got that wrong. We just did Central North. Let me say that again. 11 a.m. Eastern are those in Florida. 12:30 p.m. Eastern on Zoom will be for those that are going to be in the Northeast region. So if you're basically above Pennsylvania or east of Ohio, so we're talking about New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont. I'm forgetting one, Rhode Island. I feel like I'm forgetting something else over there. But if you're in that area, that'll be this Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. And those that are in the DMV, so those that are in Pennsylvania and the DMV, we will do a Zoom meeting at 2:00 p.m. Eastern, New York time. So that's Washington, D.C., Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania. That'll be 2:00 p.m. Eastern. However, those that are in the DMV, and if you want to come from other places too, I'll make sure I get you the information. But those that are in the DMV, we will be doing a meetup kind of sort of around Baltimore. So if you'd like to be able to try and come out there and say hello to us, I do apologize in advance for this meeting. It's the first meeting in like years, but for this meeting, due to some family stuff we have to take care of. And I'll be, as soon as I leave, I'm gonna have to go to the same place, but due to some family stuff we have to take care of, my wife and Solomon will not be able to attend this one. But you can still come out and we can still say hello to everybody real quick. And for those that are in that area, we're going to try to do one again on the 22nd. So if you can't make this one, or if you come to this one and you don't get a chance to meet Elder Maya on this one, you can always come to the next one to be able to do that. Alrighty, you'll be taking the children to Charlotte for the weekend. Okay, praise y'all. Be safe. We got some people over in North Carolina too. You might want to say hello to them, or real quick, if you want to stop by, let text us, let us know, and we could try and give you their information as well. So we thank y'all. We appreciate you. That's all that I have for today. We're gonna get ready to do our shout out. I think that's about it. We got so much stuff going on. We praise y'all for you all, though. Thank you for being on. Now that Passover is over, I'll be able to jump back into some other things more, put 10 toes down against some other things that I know I haven't been able to do. But while we get ready to take our leave, thank you again for being on all over on all platforms. We appreciate you. We're thankful and grateful to you guys. We look forward to talking to you all again soon. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. So I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, just that you are loved, you're necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom, family. Shabbat shalom. Peace, everybody. Now, as we continue, for those that are on TikTok,